What's up, everyone? Welcome to the broadcast. This hangout is going to be about liberal hypocrisy and the Orlando attack. I posted up a video about this attack, and right away, I got a ridiculous comment. And if you listen to this Christopher Hitch slap, I'm talking straight to you. So if you want to come up in here and defend yourself and try to back up what you were saying, then you're more than welcome to do so. I am going to post you the link, and then you can come in here and you can try to argue your point. I'm not going to get in some endless voice. Some endless text exchange with you. I'm just pointing out the Hangout link to you. And if you want to come in here and argue your point, come in here and argue it, and let's talk about this like adults. All right. Let's see. Let me get rid of this YouTube app here. Okay. I'm posting the link here so other people can see it, and then they can come in the link if they want to, and then we can discuss this. Because I run from nobody. I back up what I say, and that's what I do. So if you want to come in here and we want to talk about this, we can talk about this, and perhaps we can have a good conversation. So I posted the link for you. You can come in here at any time, and until you come in here, I'm just going to briefly discuss this. There's been a whole lot of liberal hypocrisy, behind this whole Orlando shooting. A whole lot of it. And here's a huge example of this. One of the biggest examples of this is the fact that they merely called this a mass shooting. Like, most of them aren't even referring to it as a terrorist attack. Most of them are calling it a mass shooting. And here's my issue with this whole thing. It's two things that are going on here, or at least two big things that I see. Number one, they're using it as sort of a way to attack the Second Amendment and to control guns and whatnot, or for gun control. The other thing is they're using it as an opportunity to attack Christians. And when the Planned Parenthood shooter Robert Deere shot up that Planned Parenthood clinic, they were calling him a terrorist, which I have absolutely no problem with him being called a terrorist, because that's what he was. Robert Deere was a terrorist, and I have no problem with him being a Christian. If he was a Christian, then he's a Christian that needs to repent for what he did, and I have no problem attaching the liberal Christian to him. But I'm not going to sit up here and be like everyone who does something like that is following what Jesus said. I'm not going to claim that they necessarily are, but I'm not going to claim that they necessarily aren't either. So, did you have anything to say, Christopher Hitchslap?
I do.
All right.
Well, I think it's okay. Here's what my problem is. Like another YouTuber that shall go unnamed, you want to disassociate yourself with them immediately as soon as they do something wrong. These are all of a sudden so-called Christians, and you put that caveat on there because of the crime that they've committed, right? Oh, well, true Christian wouldn't do that. Not a true Christian, not a true Christian. And it's the no true Scotsman fallacy, because technically you could say anybody who murders, discriminates, does anything media worthy or catches the attention in negative light, you could say isn't a Christian. And isn't that convenient? Isn't that nice? You can just say that's not our group. They wouldn't do that. Is the KKK based around Christianity? Nope, because Christians wouldn't do that. Not real Christians wouldn't do that. Come on, man. Just own up to slavery. Them ain't real Christians. Real Christians wouldn't do that. Where do you think they got the instruction manual about what to do with slaves, and where they got the idea that this was right? Oh, no, not true Christians. They wouldn't do that. That's not us, not us, not us. Only the good ones. Those are us. Someone goes and kills somebody in the name of Christianity. Not us. It's terrible. There.
Okay. First of all, you commit the two fallacies here. Number one, you're assuming that that Christians aren't like owning it, so to speak. I understand, that there will be ignorant Christians who would, argue that basic fallacy. I get that. I mean, not all Christians are sitting up here saying that when an evil act is done, that person isn't actually Christian. Not all Christians are arguing that point. So you get it wrong right off the bat there. And the other fallacy you are arguing is that that it's true Scotsman's fallacy, and that's just not true at all. And I can explain it like this. Here's the thing: when you're talking about the whether someone is a Scotsman or not, a Scotsman, is associated, with a particular nationality or whatever. All right, that has nothing to do with actions. That's a title. Okay.
It's the name. It's shorthand for the
No,
name of the fallacy.
I didn't finish. Let me finish. I'll let you finish, sir. Let me finish. Okay. Um, when you're talking about the Bible or Christianity from the context of what the Bible teaches, it is not merely a title. It is a way that you live. And yes, there are Christians who have done evil things. Nobody is questioning that. And like for the Crusades, for example, that was a very, very horrific mark on history and on Christianity. Nobody is denying that. But at the same time, you can't necessarily say that just because somebody claims to be a Christian, that means that they are one by the biblical um, definition or how the Bible defines it. Because being a Christian is not just merely your a title, but what you do. All right. It's like, for example, if
Was that
you
a
are
question?
I'm let me finish, bro.
You
It's
said
like,
all
for
right,
example,
or
I
you said
wasn't
right.
done.
All right, I thought you asked me a question.
Oh, no, okay, I'm sorry. That wasn't meant to be a question. But anyway, take a police officer, for example. To be a police officer is not merely a title, right? You gotta do certain things. I mean, you uh somebody can't say that they're a police officer and they've never had a day of police or law enforcement training in their life and never have been exposed to it in any sort of capacity. It's about what they do or the training they have received and whatnot. It's not merely a title. And it's a similar sort of concept with Christianity. It's not merely a title, it's what you do. Does that make sense?
No, because by that definition, you said Christians have done wrong things and have done bad
Mm-hmm.
things. Do you
Mm-hmm.
agree with that? Okay. So, how were they Christians when doing those things? If you were to what do you call that? Inspect their fruits. How could you at the same time say that is a Christian doing a bad thing when he's displaying terrible ethics at the time of doing those things? How would you say, yeah, but he's still a Christian when he's doing the wrong thing?
Well, you like you said, I do think it has a whole lot to do with the fruits that you bear. Sometimes we may misperceive things and get the wrong impression about things. But I do I would like to agree that if somebody was doing things that Jesus said, like love your neighbor as yourself, that if they didn't do those things, that they would not, be falling in line with what Jesus said. Um, it's more, yeah. You have Christians that'll slip up, but I think in the grand scheme of things, their good fruits will show through the sins that they've committed. If you have someone who would go out and you know kill all these people, rape and ravage all these women, steal all the time, doing all sorts of messed up stuff like this, and claiming to be a Christian, chances are the consistency of their actions probably means that they're not a Christian.
So can a Christian shoot up a nightclub? Can a
Sure.
Christian, so a Christian can be responsible for that.
Yes.
Okay. Just point of clarity.
All right. Yeah, I never argued against that possibility.
Yeah. And I don't go on Hangouts much anymore, but my argument is the Bible, in my opinion, is like a manual on how to build bombs. There's a lot of useful information in there, maybe how to work with electronics and how to wire things and how to do all you know what I mean. But if and some people may gain just that little bits and pieces of knowledge out of it, but some people with the right set of eyes may read it with the wrong set of eyes and commit atrocities. I can, and this, I can go in to a nightclub filled with gay people and kill them, and I can justify it with the Bible. Now we can pick and choose, and we can say no, that no,
No,
but
you
you're reading it
cannot.
wrong.
That's
I sure can.
incorrect.
I sure can.
You start off with a straw man, so no, you
Okay, I
cannot
could go in there
justify
and
it with the
stone.
Bible.
I could go in there, line them up, and stone them to
Yeah,
death.
you started
I
off
can
with a
put them to
straw man,
death.
sir. You start off with a
Okay,
straw man.
there
No, you
weren't.
can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you cannot.
I can point to a passage just like the slave owners did.
You'll
Be wrong
point.
about it.
You'll be pointing to the Old Testament. That's what you'll be doing.
Yeah, I would. In your eyes, I would be wrong. But what I'm saying
No, no,
is
no,
that I
not in
can
my eyes.
justify. I can
Wait,
justify what I'm doing.
wait. No, no, it's not in my eyes. It's what Scripture teaches. You'd be pointing and misusing the text to make your argument.
And in my opinion, I'll be using the bomb manual to its full potential.
I don't care what your opinion is. It's about what the Scripture teaches. I don't give a crap what you think it says. It's not about what you think it says. It's about what it actually says.
It's not about what it says, but it's about what it says.
I didn't say I didn't say it wasn't about what it doesn't say and what it says. I said it's not about what your opinion is. It's about what it actually says.
Could I look in the Bible and just flip to a page, and let's just say I haven't read the whole thing. Let's just say I do the random. Remember making prank calls? You would just flip open the phone book real quick and point to a number and call it. Could I do that with the Bible? Find a verse and be like, "Whoa, this is from the creator of the universe. This is I need to, homosexuals need to be put to death. Do you think could I do that with your book? I'm not saying it
Well,
would be the right way to read it. I'm just saying, is that caption in
you
there
can you
that
can
that
you can you
go
can
ahead.
point to it and read it, yes, but I mean, you would have to do more than just like read one text and assume you have the entire meaning or the entire understanding of what's going on. There are certain things you have to do, like it's called like hermeneutics. You got cross reference things. You got to examine the cultural context, context clues, and there's all sorts of things that you gotta study. There's literary devices. There's all sorts of things that you have to do first, and there's a set of rules that you have to adhere to. You can't, just pick
Can't just
one.
read it, can you?
Say what?
Can't just read it, can you?
Of course you can read it, but I mean, um, you know, there are other, historical texts, that are written in, similar ways to the Bible, in which, people, you know, understand those concepts, but for some reason, when they apply them to the Bible, they act like, basic common sense, principles and how to read such a text goes out the window.
What if I just want to read it? What if I just, I mean,
What do
without
you
all
mean
the,
just
what,
read it?
okay, without what all the things you mentioned, the hermeneutics and the historical context, and all, I call that basically squinting at the Bible. What if I just want to pick that thing up and just read it for what it is, just page by page, and just read it? You think, I mean, am I going to walk away? I mean, that's probably what most people do, is they just read it. They're told them, verse, chapter, read it. Um, do you think that the overall tone towards homosexuality is going to be a good one or a bad one without the hermeneutics and the historical context and the exegesis and the eisegesis and all
That's
that
not
stuff?
how it works, sir.
Am I gonna walk away having read that book, um, thinking that the creator of the universe thinks it's okay to be gay or not?
That's not how it works, sir. You bringing your own presuppositions into the picture. That's not how you do anything, sir.
I just asked about reading
Analyzing
it, just reading it.
not, but that's the thing, though. You gotta analyze context in anything you read. It doesn't matter what it is, and it's not just with the Bible as well. It's with any particular text, sir.
Okay, agreed.
It's not just some special book that has special rules.
And that's why I've said that I don't necessarily think that all of these terrible precepts uh, are in the Bible. They're in the believer themselves. And then they go in there and read and find justification for their
Well,
bigotry.
you're more than welcome to believe that, sir, but you have to actually give an argument to back that up, not merely assert it.
Okay, here's my argument. And this is just my argument could be this.
Okay.
It could be I don't like homosexuals. Now let me flip open my book and find out if the creator of the universe feels the same way I do. What am I going to find? Are we going to agree on that? Or is he going to correct me in my thinking? What do you think's going to happen, Antonio?
You're begging the question. I just told you that you got to analyze context and all this other stuff, and the Bible doesn't have any special rules that you wouldn't have to apply with any other kind of text. And you just threw out all that and begged the question when you even asserted that statement of yours.
Well, what's the answer to my question?
The answer to your
Is the correct?
question, you can't answer that question because you started with assuming your whole premise of how you were approaching it was already valid before you even concluded it to be true.
Okay, let's just say I love homosexuals, and then I grab the book and I flip it open and flip through them pages, read it. Is the creator of the universe going to agree with me on that?
Again, you can't ignore rules on analyzing a text because you got to understand the Bible is a historical document. In fact, it's a collection of 66 books that were written over a period of 1500.
Are
You
you
have to treat them, as historical in nature and have to analyze them as historical in nature instead of just, applying your just on the surface presuppositions to them. So you can't just ignore that, sir. You can, try to dance around it all you wish, but you can't get away from that, whether you like it or not.
I think it's obvious from the two questions that I've asked you, both in the positive and in the negative, and your desperate attempts to not answer that
Oh
question. I
no,
think
it's
it's
not.
obvious.
It's
I think
not.
it's obvious what the problem is here.
No, no, it's not a desperate attempt, sir, because I just told you, and you even agreed that context is necessary, but you once again ignored that whole rule and then just jumped to your presuppositions on how you read the Bible.
Right, because I think if the book is written by the creator of the universe, that I should be able to flip it open and get some direct answers. Are you saying that that isn't possible without all of these other?
What you mean by direct? What you mean by direct answers? You're
Well,
not going to
I
get direct
I want to
answers.
I want to
You,
know if being gay is okay. That's my question. And the Bible's supposed to have all the answers. Is it in there?
that's just like saying,
See, you
and
won't
here's
answer
how.
that
No,
either.
no, 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 no. I'm gonna answer your question in this way. That's just like saying that if you read Mark Twain's books, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, and you see him say the word nigger in it, then that means that Mark Twain was a racist. And it does not mean that at all. It just means that he was speaking, given the cultural context of that particular time. And that's a similar way you would have to apply the principles in the Bible.
And who was it written by?
Who was it was authored, it was God breathed, so to speak. So it was authored by God.
And the other book was written by Mark Twain. So can we make
Right.
the distinction? You're saying there's no difference
Well,
on
I'm
the text that's
saying,
on one page versus the other. One is told as a story, and one is written as a moral guide for humankind. And you're telling me that you're making the comparison between that and a Mark Twain book?
what I'm saying is context is important. It doesn't matter whether it's about, uh, a moral guide, as you put it, or whether it's about reading a story. But context is important. Period.
Okay. Well, let's go with what I wrote in your post, so because I don't have much time.
Okay.
Um, it's what did you have a problem with? Do you want me to read it? Maybe it'll help if I read it
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go ahead and read it. That's fine.
in the tone that I wrote it in.
Sure.
So there's no. Let's see. Let me pull this up, and let me see which part you take issue with here. Orlando attack refuting Jacqueline Glenn. That was it, right? Okay.
Yes.
What I wrote in. Whoops, I gotta mute it.
Okay.
Okay. I wrote Antonio. The main point the main point is you are missing and at the same time playing a victim. Your actions are guided by your belief. You seemed willingful, ignorant to the motivations used in the attack. The book you hold as the word of the creator of the universe holds instructions and justifications for a motivated reader. let's not pretend. When you try to dismiss the acts done in the name of Christianity by calling the perpetrator a so-called Christian, it's obvious what you're doing. Just own it. That's what I wrote.
Did
So,
you not hear in my video that that I did a video of that Jimenez cat, the first guy in the video that was just on this hate power trip, and I did a video on him, and I didn't say that. I don't recall saying anywhere in that video that he wasn't a true Christian. In fact, I said that he needed to repent and that he wasn't worthy of his position as a pastor. And I even got positive feedback from a number of different people in your circles.
yeah, good job on pointing out someone who's an obvious, almost immediate threat to society. I just call him. I think he's probably following the word a little bit more strictly. I
Mm,
don't think you have
uh,
justification
you're more than welcome to
to,
believe that, sir.
the whole. You're more than welcome to believe that is when that is said. That is the same thing that the flat earthers say when you've got them pinned in a corner. So
Well,
why don't you just offer an argument back?
well, I have offered several arguments. In fact, at least one of them you agreed with, like the context one, for example.
Right. I agree that context is important, but I think it's
Hmm.
more important the authorship or the believed authorship of the book is supposed to be from the creator of the universe. And me asking you those questions and the dance you did afterwards
What
answered
dance?
my question.
What dance? How did I dance?
I
Be
said
specific.
I said let me put this forward and say I don't like homosexuals, and if I pick up the Bible and I flip through the pages and I read it, would I walk away with the impression that the creator of the universe agrees with me or disagrees with me? And then I posed it in the opposite, and you wouldn't answer either one of those.
I
So
did
here's
answer you, sir.
would he agree with me? Yes, it's a well. Actually, it came down to a yes or no. But you had to, the dance is when you had to
No,
explain all of the different. The squinting you had to do, and the had
no, it
well,
wasn't.
not
It
this
wasn't.
really, and
No, no, no. Cut that out, sir. It wasn't. No squinting or anything like that.
does
Because
he
you
agree
seem
with
to
me?
wait a second. You seem to think that there are certain passages that Christians themselves don't have trouble with, and there are. But you know what? At the end of the day, I stand on the word of God, and if you at first read those passages on the surface and you come away troubled by them, the thing to do would be to ask about them to see if you may be incorrect or missing something.
Well, let's do it. I just asked you the question. This will be the third time. I don't like homosexuals. Let me pick up the book. Does the creator of the universe agree with me? Yes or no?
Say that again.
I said, I don't like homosexuals. I
Mm-hmm.
pick up the book and I want to know, does the creator of the universe, the one who inspired the authorship of this book, when I read through it, is he going to agree with me or is he going to disagree with me?
He's going to disagree with you vehemently because he loves all sinners. God, Jesus Christ told us to love, our enemies. So if you hate homosexuals, then God is, or don't like, or whatever you want to say, then God is going to vehemently disagree with you.
Really?
Yes,
He's going to disagree with the fact that I don't like homosexuals. Really?
yes, he is.
Even though he wants them stoned to death.
That's the Old Testament, sir.
Same God, sir.
He fulfilled the law,
So,
sir. Yes, it is the same God.
so he changed his mind then.
Say what?
He changed his mind.
It's a fulfilling, it's a passing away of the old. That was
So
long. That was long, written from the very beginning, sir. So you can't say he changed his mind when that was long written from the beginning for that to happen.
but the way you worded it was pretty clever. Was to love your enemies. So,
That's
in
correct.
the same breath, yeah, in the same breath, you are admitting that these people are your enemies.
Well, there may be times to where they will be my enemy. Yes, I'm not always claiming that a certain behavior that I disagree with means they're going to be my enemy, but they most certainly can be.
Why do you disagree with their behavior? I wonder.
Um,
I mean, they're
well,
not doing it to you, so why would you disagree with it?
well, what chances are if I wasn't a Christian, you know what? I probably wouldn't disagree with it. But you know what? I trust what God says.
Hmm. That sounds completely backwards from what you just said a few minutes ago.
When
Completely backwards.
how is
Well,
it
God,
backwards?
God's telling you to love them. He would apparent according to you, talking to you 5 minutes ago, God would vehemently disagree with you. Hmm.
Now, he says to love them. He doesn't. Here's the thing, man. Just because you love them doesn't mean that you have to tolerate and agree with their sin.
Oh,
That's
well,
just like saying that a parent loves their child, but they gotta tolerate and deal with their rebellion, and that's nonsense.
no. With a parent, there is no but. They've got to tolerate this, and they just love them unconditionally. Is your God not capable of that?
Yes, there is unconditional love, but there's also justice, and there's also discipline too, sir. You can't just like a parent can't just let their child just run amok and do what they want because that's not love. In fact, that would be child neglect at that point, and it would be a similar case if God just let us do whatever the heck we want. You just try to extrapolate that. Well, he's just loving us. He's just letting us do whatever the heck we want. That's not love, sir.
I don't think it would be either. How is he stopping it though? How is he stopping us from doing things?
I guess he would have a number of different ways. I mean, he would have messengers like me to go to people in truth and in love and in grace to tell them about the good news of Jesus Christ and to turn away from their sin. That would be one way to do it.
That's how he would stop us from doing bad things.
I'd say that would be one way he would try to reach you through his begotten son. That would be one way.
Through
And
through you.
as far as at me being a messenger, yes.
Would you go do it?
Would I go, tell them or preach the gospel to them, or would I go stone them?
Well, I mean, whatever you feel like you're being led to do.
Well, I think what's ever consistent with God's nature, He would not lead me to a stone a homosexual. If this were before the time of Jesus fulfilling the law, then I would have to fall in line with what He says.
And at one time, did he say to do that?
Yes, He did.
So would you be, in a way, mimicking his actions? Or wouldn't you be Christ like by doing that?
Well, since we were under the law, to obey the Father's will is absolutely Christ-like. I would say yes.
I don't know, Antonio. I think that This whole shooting thing is troubling, and it's I think that, and let me put it to you like this, just straight up.
Sure.
I think when I think, and I don't mean this as an insult, I think magical thinking is almost impossible to reason your way out of. Like the guy who shot up the nightclub. I mean, what do you tell somebody, or how do you talk somebody out of doing something like that when their belief system is such that they think that that the creator of the universe, his creator, is compelling him to do something like this? I mean, how do you have a reasonable conversation with somebody
Uh,
who believes such a thing?
well, chances are you probably couldn't. It would be pretty difficult, to say the least.
What would you say to him?
What I would I'd say to him the same thing I'm telling you. You'd be surprised how many people have come out all sorts of backgrounds of Islam, of homosexuality, adultery, all sorts of things, man. You'd be amazed the uh, the power the cross has had on the hearts of men.
I know, but what would you say? Um, let's put aside that I'm sure you would call the police, and if he said I'm about to go shoot up this club and in the name of Allah, I mean, he's
Yeah.
like, I mean, put aside. I mean, how would you try to negotiate with him to not do that?
Um.
Would you try to lead him? I mean,
Well, if he, I, I guess I would try to talk to him, but if he feels intent on um actually, carrying out an attack, then force would be necessary.
what would you? What I'm trying to think here. I don't
What
have.
would I tell him?
I mean, would you try to tell them that your way of thinking is? Would you try to convert them, or would you try to offer them a passage? Or it's like an impossible game when people have these beliefs that just can't be overridden with reason, and that's why I think that the main point that you were trying to make is why is your side getting blamed or getting associated with this. And I've heard you complain about that, and the reason is because when and I'm not here to have this conversation, but it's like, talking
Hmm.
about evolution, you just won't accept it. No amount of evidence, blah, whatever, not gonna accept
Hmm.
it. And thank thank God that's your sticking point on such a trivial issue. I mean, yeah, it's you're not going to know that part of science, but what if you took the same attitude towards going and shooting up a nightclub? Well, now that gets frustrating. If you were that convinced, if you were Nephilim free convinced that in a young Earth, as this guy was, that he had to fulfill this shooting, I mean,
The
it's
problem,
impossible. It's impossible talking to people like you sometimes.
the problem is if a Christian were involved in both, say the Planned Parenthood shooting, and as well as the Orlando attack on the Post nightclub. If a Christian did both of those things, it would be solely placed upon Christianity, or what have you. It would not be directed to Islam or Muslims in any way, shape, or form. But um, if both of them were by Muslims or Islamic Muslims or what have you, it would be painted directly or indirectly in some way to Christians as well. That is the hypocrisy that I have a problem with.
Right. If they went in there and did it in the name of If they called 911 and said I'm doing this in the name of Jesus Christ, yeah, I think we would have a problem. And I think
Right.
and I think
I will stand shoulder to shoulder with you, condemning it. And and again, as I pointed out to you earlier, I would not necessarily claim that they weren't a Christian. What I would
whoa, whoa,
say
whoa.
is,
You would say they weren't
what
a
I would
Christian?
say what
You might have cut out. You would have said they weren't one.
um I wouldn't really know for sure. You can't really hold on. Well, let me finish.
Oh.
Um, you we don't we ultimately don't know for sure. Only God knows for sure ultimately. But what I would say is, again, it would have to do with a consistency of particular actions. I think after a while, a person's fruits would show through if they were a true believer or not. And if they don't, then chances are they not a true believer. The Bible looks that they bear. I mean, we can just kind of make sort of an inference to the best explanation of whether they were a true believer or not, but ultimately only God knows that for sure.
So you won't just take them at their word, especially when they're man, that's terribly convenient. It's I'm doing this in the name of
Actually,
Christianity, but your
actually,
fruits don't match up.
actually,
That's convenient.
it's not convenient at all because I don't know any informed Christian, for example, who would deny that there were true believers who were involved in things like, let's say, the Crusades, for example.
How could
So
they
it's
be?
not so it's not convenient at all.
How could they be? They're not
How could
following the scripture. Their fruits don't match up. So why are you calling them believers?
say what? Why am I
They're
calling them
yeah.
believers?
Why would you call them believers?
Um, well,
Because of their fruits? No.
Well, you there were, if you actually analyze the historical context of those particular events, you would find that there was a whole lot of deception that was going on around that time. And in fact, I believe there were a lot of Christians who ended up committing suicide because they were so torn about the acts that they have done. So I think that there was a certain level of the conscience of God that was just bothering their hearts and souls.
Yeah, but you're saying some true blooded, fruit bearing Christians committed these acts, these atrocities. And I'm asking you how? How's that
Well,
possible to have both? To be both a follower and a fruit bearer and commit these acts. Why don't you just throw them under the bus too?
I didn't say that a good Christian. Not well. Let's throw out good Christian for a second. I didn't say a Christian always bore good fruit.
You can tell a Christian by their bad fruits.
What's that?
Can you tell a Christian by their bad fruits? I'm saying certifiably by you, these people were Christians doing these horrific acts, and I'm just asking how that's even possible.
Maybe maybe some of them were, maybe some of them weren't. What I'm telling you is that I wouldn't deny just outright that it weren't actual Christians involved in these things.
Is it okay? That's just really. I mean, I guess it's as honest of an answer as you're going to
I
give.
mean, I'm sorry if you don't like the answer or whatever, because proof is different than persuasion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know the whole song and dance that you're kind of backed into, but
No, it's not a song and
I just
dance, sir. It's an appeal to the limits of our epistemological understanding. It's not, a song and dance. There's, certain limits that I have.
well, this is my problem is there's this door that you have that is slightly ajar, that's slightly open, in my opinion, that can lead you to do some pretty horrific things. I myself am not trying to claim a moral high ground, but I don't have someone whispering what's right and what's wrong in my ear. And I think that's maybe why you're receiving some blowback, is because there is a window or a door that in the right circumstances could lead you to, I wouldn't say shoot up, that would just be disingenuous. But when we see what people's beliefs can make them do, the atrocities they can commit, we all have a moment of realization that we're living in a world where, in this situation, we have to remember that there are people in the society, a large majority of it, that has magical thinking that can't be reasoned out of, and it
But
scares us. It scares us a little bit.
that's a whole nother subject, sir,
No, it's
because
not.
no, well, let me finish. I say that's a whole nother subject because the issue is, I mean, you still got the issue of what do you even base um like morally wrong actions or morally good actions upon? And that's a whole nother argument, man. So I mean, what basis would you even have to even say certain things are morally wrong or right or what have you, other than your arbitrary opinion or basis or foundation? And that would be a whole nother discussion.
Well, I mean, very simply put, is I try to um, not inflict harm on other people because I don't want it inflicted on me. Sorry. Um, very, I follow societies that benefit everybody, that try to maximize the well-being of all of its citizens.
Well, I mean, it's very subjective, because here's the thing. There's this issue going on, and you know that I tackled the abortion debate, and then you have a whole lot of people out there who don't even see the unborn as a person at all, and um, they don't see that there's been millions and millions of children that's been killed, and that's based on this beneficial society that you were talking about, that they will argue their own sorts of presuppositions to even say that those weren't persons that were killed.
Right.
So
But we can talk about that, Antonio.
mhm.
The thing is we can have that conversation. And I've watched you fumble around with this for a couple
Not
weeks now, and because you're locked into one position, you
like in
can't have a
what way?
conversation. You can't have a conversation about it. You've
In what way
tried
have I
to.
fumbled around?
Well, I mean, you could, because you've been posed with the question. Your first stance is that it's just wrong across the board. Period. No, I don't care about whatever. And then when posed with a question, what if the mother's life's at risk? What if she's going to die by giving birth? All of a sudden you had to think.
No,
Now
I
things
didn't
have
have to.
changed.
No, I didn't have to think, sir. The
So the
the
mother
issue
dies.
the issue is that that is not a case to where you're intentionally killing a child. That's a case to
Oh,
where you're
yes, you
dealing with
are. Yes, you are. If the child has to die for her to live, you're intentionally killing it.
Okay, so it's interesting that you make the argument that that's intentional killing because I
How is it
hear,
not?
well, for the simple fact that even many pro-abortionists, even on your side of the argument, even argue that abortion is not intentional killing, rather that it's merely the termination of pregnancy. That if the result of that is that the fetus dies, then that's just the result, but that's not the necessary intent. But the necessary um, thing is that the pregnancy is terminated. So if you're going to, say that that's intentional killing, then you would have to admit that all abortion, in the context I just said, is intentional killing as well.
Okay, let's say I admit that. And let's say in the situation that you didn't clearly answer, in my opinion, the mother's going to die unless the pregnancy is terminated. Which one do you choose?
Okay, in that particular case, the reason why it's not intentional killing is because you don't need to kill the unborn to resolve that issue. Um,
That was the scenario,
here's the thing.
Antonio.
No, no,
Why are you
hold on.
avoiding it? The baby has to die for the mother to live. The mechanism that to kill
Saying,
the baby
saying
is going to be the same.
you,
Which one do you choose?
you are confusing two things. Saying the baby has to die and the baby has to intentionally be killed. That's not the same thing, sir.
What's the end result? The baby's dead.
It doesn't matter what the end result is. It's not the
This
same
is
thing. For example, let me
fumble.
example why. Well, hold on. Let me get an example of why that's not the same thing. Like, for example, let's take a 2-year-old child that has a terminal cancer, all right? And then let's say you just take a gun and just shoot the kid to death. The
Completely
terminal
different
cancer,
scenario.
the terminal cancer, from what we know, isn't curable. So the end result is whether you kill the kid intentionally or let the kid, just die passively. The end result is the kid's dead. Either way. But
Okay.
you see, the means to that end clearly matter as
Oh,
you are talking about, the act of taking of life
okay.
as opposed to the child passively dying.
The ch-
There's a clear difference there. And in the same way, there's a clear difference between extracting the child outside the womb and like stabbing it or chopping it up to death while it's still in the womb intentionally to kill. There's a clear difference, sir.
Gary needs to be broadcast. And yes, I'll admit that you're right. There is a clear difference, but I wanted an answer to the scenario that I posed to you. The child is going to die. They are going to terminate the pregnancy. The method of them terminating the pregnancy is going to be the same as if the mother had decided to terminate the pregnancy. There's not going to be any special um, method of terminating the pregnancy, but the scenario that I offered you was the mother will die if the pregnancy is to continue. Which one do you choose?
So the scenario is they have to kill the unborn intentionally.
Yes. Of course, it's intentionally. It's all,
Because
no matter
I
how you
mean,
look at it, intentionally. Yeah, to save the mother or to not save the mother, it's intention. It doesn't.
I mean
You don't
that's not.
accidentally do it.
I mean, I'm gonna address this in two ways. Number one, um, typically life threatening scenarios don't happen until late term in pregnancy. So there would be a potential chance to save the life of that child. So they wouldn't have to intentionally kill the child anyway. But even if I were to assume that you were correct, that they did intentionally kill the child in that particular case, that would not magically extrapolate to it's okay to intentionally kill the child in any case.
Okay. thank you for answering the question. But
Right.
I don't want to derail any further because,
Okay.
like I said, I don't have much time. But my ultimate point is that when there's unreasonable, in my opinion, magical thinking involved, dangerous things can happen, and
All
the
right.
book's right there to support it. So
All right.
it just needs to be it's a
Well,
very
you
scary
can.
time, and that's why you're receiving blowback for what happened there. I'm not saying
Well,
it's fair. I'm not saying it's fair at all. I'm just saying that when we are reminded that this is possible, it scares everybody and makes everybody take a step back and say, "Whoa, hold on a second. There's this gateway that could be triggered in a way from people, and the name of that gateway is religion, and that's where the problem's
well,
at." But I appreciate you having me in, man. Go ahead, say what you want. I don't want to not hear your point.
no, it's all good. I'm gonna just let you have the last word there. I pretty much said what I wanted to say with you in this conversation. Thanks for coming in, man.
All right, man. See you
Have a
later.
good one.
Peace.
How's it going,
Okay.
Gary?
How you doing? I'll tell you, mate. How you doing?
Not
Yeah,
bad.
I just thought, I mean, I just want to ask you some questions. Like, why you took the Orlando attacks? What's your opinion on them? I mean,
What?
do you not think that they maybe introduce a conversation that should happen, which is like, I'm not, I mean, I'm in a country that doesn't have has no guns at all.
Uh huh.
Uh, but I think that goes against your Second Amendment. Now the thing is that I think there's a difference between owning like a gun, like a handgun or a shotgun or even a hunting rifle, and owning an AK-47.
Uh huh.
I think even people who are the biggest gun lobbyists, you could would say there's a difference there, because one is for self-protection or for hunting, and the other is to basically take over a government. Because an AK-47 is a military weapon. It has no other facility, it has no other purpose. It's not for hunting, it's not for self-protection.
Uh huh.
And I mean, unless you're living in a war zone. So I was like thinking, is there a reason why the general US public needs an AK-47?
Uh huh. Okay. So, what did you want to talk about exactly?
Gun control in your country, and why
Oh,
why it's subpar.
like why do we not want it? You mean, or
No, I mean like,
I'm not,
why is it easy for somebody with known violent tendencies, with known personal demons, to get hold of one? I mean, this guy was well known for having his afflictions with pain and suffering and stuff like that. The fact that
well,
he abused his ex-wife and stuff like that.
the
Yeah,
thing is, I would take issue with the premise that it's just easy to get one because the overwhelming majority of people who, if things are done properly, the overwhelming majority of people who should not have one, in fact, do not get one. In fact, this guy went to go purchase body armor and ammo, and he failed to the background check because the people who he went to, thought something was suspicious, and they reported him to the FBI. But for some reason, the FBI didn't do their jobs, and he ended up getting a hold of a weapon. You see, it was a failure on the FBI's part to do their jobs correctly. It was certainly not a failure of the local agencies or the local gun shops or whatever he went to. It was a failure on the FBI.
okay, so do you think that that people who are on the FBI watch list should own a gun?
Say what now?
I said, do you think that somebody should who is on the watch list? Do you think they should own a gun?
I think it
I'll
would.
be able to.
I think it would depend because there's a lot of people with no history of like crimes or mental illnesses and things like this that are on the FBI watch list. And I think it would have to be a case by case basis. I wouldn't paint it with a broad brush and say necessarily that all people on the list, shouldn't be able to have access to a firearm because there's a whole lot of innocent people that get put on the list all the.
Hello, hello, hello.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can understand that. I'm just, it just baffles me that it's like we aren't, talking about what's the word. This isn't even a conversation. I mean, like the fact is that there's no reason for an AK-47 to be sold to the general public. None that I can see. No logical argument I can see for it. However, if you are going to sell it, you should try and not sell it to somebody with violent tendencies, because this is what happens. Because like this guy got triggered, and that's what happens with most violent people. Is that it only takes even the most minute thing to trigger them, and then they're going to do something horrible.
Well, you can make an argument about that, and that can be discussed. That's no problem. But you gotta ask yourself one question: Would like with guns being more tightly controlled and hard to get, would that have necessarily prevented such an attack like this?
Possibly because it made it difficult for him to get hold of.
Well, there's always, other ways to, mount such an attack like this. Like you can take cheap to buy products at your local convenience store or general store or grocery store and make some lethal weapons with, household materials.
Yeah, but nothing that's as lethal as an AK-47, which is an automatically fired rifle. It's going to be
Well,
nothing like that. You may be able to kill what 2, 3 people tops.
well, I think it all depends. I mean, you have people that have used basic everyday materials to make lethal bombs. So I mean,
Yeah,
I wouldn't claim that. What's that?
I said, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, like the Boston City bomber was like what
Yes, I think that's a great example, actually.
he used a domestic a self-made bomb, but I think the problem is that he used a gun that he illegally bought, and we know that the guy's psychopathic tendencies and violent tendencies, and I
Yeah,
think
yeah, I wouldn't argue with that. The FBI abysmally failed in doing their job, and they have a huge responsibility. If not, I would say they have 90% of the responsibility to put upon their shoulders. The
right.
FBI agree, just horribly failed to do their job. Just it's an absolute embarrassment, and they knew certain information about this guy. For some reason, nothing came about. It's like probably one of the most colossal failures in recent history of FBI failures. But we already have regulations. I can't remember the act. I think it's called like the National Firearms Act or something like that. But there's already particular restrictions and things like this that we have in place. I mean, more control isn't what we need because like that's the thing. Even if we had more control, that doesn't mean that the FBI wouldn't fail to do their jobs again. Because we could have tighter control all day, but the same kind of failures could still happen in the FBI.
Understandable. I'd be like, the things that go to slip through, but I'm just gonna say, but I mean, like I think my position is that like if you are going to have guns, you should make it that guns that are for self defense and only for that purpose. You'll carry enough that you can shoot perpetrators. And that's it. Not something that can kill whole spells of people.
Oh, the thing is, the majority of attacks that occur are not, done with weapons that are to the degree of AK-47s or semi-auto, or semi-automatic rifles and things like this. You see, like in Chicago, for example, or in Queens, New York, or something like that. You have people who are killed in these hood ghettos all the time, and they have things like 38 calibers and whatnot. And people are dying and getting killed all the time. But most of these deaths are not happening with AK-47s and things like this. They're happening with like 38 caliber handguns and stuff like Smith and Wessons and things like this.
Yeah, well yeah, because handguns are easily gettable, and you can easily get untraceable ones. That's the problem. Is that like here, I mean, like there are people with guns are criminals or the police. There's no civilians with guns unless you have to keep it at lodge, you have to keep it signed, you have to go through so many hoops to get one over here. That I mean, like you don't really have one. And here it's not an issue. To be honest, knife crime's more of an issue over here than it is, But say that somebody just shot a one of our Ministry of MPs recently. So I want to talk about the title of your handout. No, you talk about the liberal hypocrisy. Liberal hypocrisy about what exactly?
You see, my issue is, it seems like whenever a killing happens by a Christian, it's like, and I would not disagree. A terrorist is a terrorist. It doesn't matter whether you're a Christian, a Muslim, or what have you. The problem is this: like if you take the Planned Parenthood shooting, 3 people killed, 9 injured. That was done by a Christian, okay? And they called him a Christian terrorist. He killed 3 people and injured 9. And they call him a terrorist. But you take this Islamic Muslim who killed like 49, 50 people and injured many more, and they called that just a mass shooting. Most liberal networks didn't even refer to it as a terrorist attack at all, or an Islamic terrorist at all. And I'm not saying that the smaller number of killing absolves the Christian person, not at all. But what I am saying is that if they can take a smaller number, done by a Christian and call him a terrorist, then why can't they even more so call the Islamic Muslim who did more killing a terrorist by the same token? Why they just shying away from the terrorist labeled in and just simply calling it a mass shooting in some ridiculous attempt
because
go ahead.
Because it was a singular guy triggered by a singular action. It wasn't who claims to have some affiliation with IS. Now the thing is with IS, you can't believe a bloody word that comes out of their mouths. So the thing is that this guy was acting on his own, and he was triggered by I think it was two men kissing on the street. Now there have been reports said that he had latent homosexual leanings, and he was just saying that again. The thing is, it's that liberals do not put all Christians and say all Christians are responsible for the terrorism. By if let's say, for example, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a Christian terrorist. Let's say, for example, I don't know. I can't think of one.
Robert Deere.
All right.
Like the Planned Parenthood shooter, Robert Deere.
Okay, that guy. All Christians are responsible for what he did. And I don't think any liberal with half a brain cell would say they are. Any more than anybody would say that atheists are fault for what Tim McVeigh did. Because Tim McVeigh was an atheist, by the way. And the thing is that, you know, they get very... If you point that out, it's like, oh, no. You see, because every person of every group that you happen to love to has done something wrong. I think is that you can't just go and say, oh, it's this group here or it's this thing here. Again, things are nuanced. The thing is that this guy did things not because he's Muslim, but because he had psychological tendencies and he was triggered. I think he didn't get the help that he needed. The thing is that people won't talk about that and talk about the way that mental health is seen in this society, but they'll talk about the fact he's Muslim, which is not the issue. The issue is his mental health. And
it wouldn't have been an issue. The problem is, Gary, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but the problem is it would have not even remotely been an issue of mental health if it was done by a Christian. They wouldn't have said a darn thing about mental health. I guarantee it.
But I think if he was a Christian, he wouldn't be used as a bag or a bat to hit Christians with. It would just be saying that this guy was just a crazy person with fundamentalist beliefs, and that's it. But I think when somebody is a Muslim, it is used as a branch to hit all Muslims with. Like, how many posts did we see about anti-Muslim posts did we see? Like, you know, oh, this proves that we're right about Muslims, or, you know, this proves that Islam is hateful and all this stuff. It's just like, it's nonsense.
I think the issue is to differentiate between Islam and Muslims. I would say that nobody is necessarily painting Muslims in general as bad people. The problem is Islam. And here's the thing. Why?
Yeah.
The reason why is this. I can understand if it were maybe, you know, certain isolated incidences from just some nut jobs, but the problem is you have a consistent reoccurrence of people who align with Islam worldwide engaging in terrorist attacks. And when you pass a certain threshold and you have a consistency of attacks worldwide from people who claim to align with Islam, at some point when you pass a certain threshold, you got to look at the source.
Okay, but the thing is that you're more likely to be killed while having a bath or be struck by lightning than you are to be a victim of Islamic so-called terrorist attacks. You know, they're minor. They tend to happen to Muslims for a start off. They tend to be the biggest victims of Muslim terrorism for a start, like because people in Syria and people in Egypt and places like that are Muslim, and they're the ones fighting IS for a start. Secondly, the people who are most against Islamic terrorism, as you call it, are Muslims. They decry it. They stand against it. They put their lives on the line to fight against it in some cases. And the thing is that that's the thing that annoys me the most, is that these people here are, they're good people and they put their lives on the line, and see people decry them like that is just, it's wrong to me. The thing is that, these people, again, Islam is not the problem. The problem is fundamentalism. Well, it's not even fundamentalism. It's the fact that you can spread your religion through violence is the problem. And I think that is the crux of the matter. the thing is that because that people who don't have a very nuanced view of things think it's just a religious problem, but it isn't. It's a political problem because these people are poor and they need that outlet to blame their poverty on somebody, and because people are using religion as a way to do that, it's going to cause problems. And when you see people in your country that you don't really like, it's causing even more problems. It's a what's the word? It's a gold zone of right time, right place for these sort of people. And the thing is that they'll go away because, the moderate Muslims will win in the end because they outnumber them 3,000 to 1.
Well, can I show you something?
Yeah,
I want
go
to
ahead.
show you. I want to show you a clip from. There's this video, this clip that Paul Watson did, and he showed a clip from the. It was Paul Joseph Watson. He showed this clip from this
Yeah, I saw that
this
video.
summit convention. Okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I've seen the video. Yeah, and I'm gonna point out: A, we don't know where that conference was. B, we don't know who those people are. And C, the thing is that I actually looked into what that post was and where that video was from and who those people were, and they're not representative of Muslims. What it was a meeting of certain fundamentalists who claimed to be moderates, but they're actually not. Most moderates would decry what these people were saying. Now the thing is that, all right, let me ask you something. Are you a Christian?
Yes.
Okay, so am I, right? So would you say that it's that do you not are you against people being gay?
Am I?
Yes.
I'm against all sorts of sins, adultery, fornication, and that would include sins like homosexuality. Yes.
Okay, um so would you say what would you say to people who thought there are pastors and all sorts who've come out and said that what Omar Marine did was moral because he was killing people who were pedophiles, people who are gay, and he was killing them because of their lifestyle, and they've come to not condemn it but actually celebrate it. Would you be against those Christians who've done that?
Well, Christians who will say, okay, look, this person's came out, but you know what? They're
No, no,
being who they.
no, I'm asking about pastors who've come out and said that they celebrate what the killer in Orlando did.
Oh, oh, those.
And said like they're killing pedophiles,
Oh,
they're
I'm
killing
sorry.
this.
I'm sorry. I misheard.
No, it's no problem.
I say they're not worthy of their positions as pastors. They are too. I don't think they should be able to pastor in any sort of capacity ever again. In fact, I made a video about. His name was Jimenez. I think Roger Jimenez, if I get his name correct. I made a video about him and not outright denounced him entirely. And I think he needs to repent, and I don't think he's worthy of his position as pastor. And he should not be able to pastor in any sort of capacity ever again because of what he did.
Okay, but again, there are pastors out there who have come out and celebrated what he did because he's come to eradicate their lifestyle and all this sort of stuff. A lot of hateful, bigoted stuff. And frankly, if that's what Christianity is, I want no part of it.
And him and whoever else would do anything like that absolutely need to be held accountable, and they need to be relinquished of their positions immediately.
Okay, but would you say, would you say that it's okay? So it's not okay to kill gays, then? Would you say?
I would agree that it's not okay to kill gays.
Okay, so then we're both in agreement that what happened in Orlando was bad, but there are Christians out there who say it was good, and I'm just saying that they're in the news yet. I don't hear people. I mean, I say you're more of the fundamentalist end of Christianity, I've not heard fundamentalists like yourself speak out against such rhetoric because, I mean, to me, that's disgusting. You know, even if you don't like gays, even if you think they're sinful or and you don't like their approve of their lifestyle, surely you like the people. Surely the people
All right.
you support.
I
And the thing
can,
is that we should never celebrate the death of 50 people,
because the fact
even if we hate, even if we don't like what they're doing.
because the majority of Christians aren't saying this stuff, sir. It's not happening because I guarantee you, if they were, they would be all over the liberal mainstream media, guaranteed. In fact, there was a whole lot of Muslim tweets, all right, about the event being celebrated of the dude killing all those gay people at the Post Club in Orlando, and there was a bunch of Muslim tweets celebrating the event, and the media didn't say a damn thing.
Actually, there was a lot of tweets of Muslims decrying such things, and actually they outnumbered the celebrated tweets. And actually, if you look at those celebrated tweets, they're from troll accounts.
Say what?
The celebration tweets are from troll accounts, from well-known troll accounts.
And what is the source of this info?
It's very simple. Just look at the Twitter names. It's very
Yes.
clear from the Twitter names, and if you look at the things they tweet about, it's very clear that they're troll accounts.
Is Al Jazeera a troll account?
Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera is it's not Islamic news, but it's like the news for like the Middle East. But it has outlets all over the world. And is this side that he told where he said that they celebrated it when they didn't? If you actually read the thing, it says that on a Facebook group, their readership celebrated it. And I was like, do you know how many trolls are on Facebook?
Oh, there'll be a ton of them. So, how do you know by your logic that the people who have come out and applauded the event on the Christian side weren't troll accounts as well?
Because he was because there are pastors. There are pastors who actually have a pastoral, following in America.
Two dudes out of millions upon millions of Christians.
No, I'm
Two
not saying
guys,
it's.
all right?
I'm not saying it's a combination of Christianity altogether. I'm saying that it's just very troubling that this is the sort of rhetoric that we're hearing from some people in the faith, and I'm just saying it's very disgusting to hear.
Yeah,
Right,
I'm
we're agreeing on
with
that.
you.
And I'm trying to get to the point that it's the same thing as Islam. Is that the people in Islam the moderates? I find it hard to control the fundamentalists because again, the fundamentalists are small by number and therefore are more mobile than they are. So the thing is that, and plus the thing is that you can't really track somebody's faith by how fundamental it is. The thing is that this is not a Muslim problem. This is a poverty and attitude problem where somebody doesn't like what other people say and tries to silence them. And not only that, but also put their will onto countries that don't want it. Like, for example, what's happening in Syria, what's happening in Egypt, what's happening all over the Middle East where IS are trying to take over. And the thing is that they've been fought back, but slowly but surely, but they need more help. And the thing is that's the problem.
Dude, I think you're ignoring so many things. Like for example, if you look at many countries in the world, there's a whole lot of countries in the world in which it is illegal to even own a Bible, and Christianity is outright illegal in many countries in the world. And you have
which countries is Christianity illegal in?
Say what?
Which countries is Christianity illegal in?
I believe. Let's see. I believe Indonesia is one.
Indonesia. There are loads of Christians in Indonesia.
Say what?
There are Christians in Indonesia. They're not many, but there are some.
Of course, they exist, but they're getting put in jail or killed, dude.
No, they're
That's
not.
the point,
No, they're not.
dude. You need to study, sir.
Okay, so maybe another country, Indonesia. Okay, well,
All right.
Indonesia was under a very terroristic
All right.
government for the last
All
few
right.
years.
All right. Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia, there are loads of Christians in Saudi Arabia.
You, dude,
Do
you got
you
to
know?
be
Do you
kidding
know
me.
who
You
Coptics
got
are?
to know this. What?
No. Do you know who Coptics are?
Coptics?
Yeah, it's a branch of Christianity that exists in the Middle East, in Syria, in Saudi Arabia, in Malaysia, and places like that. There's a group of people called Coptics, Christians, and they've been there for millions of years, well, thousands of years, and still put there, and
Um,
I pray and worship and all that stuff, and nobody stops them.
I'm not saying that there aren't places in the world to where Christians exist to where they, aren't to where they. So I'm not saying that there are no places in the world to where people are indeed free to be Christians. I mean, we're free to be Christians here in the United States and places like this, obviously. And you have maybe a few countries here and there to where that's the case in the Middle East as well. But in most of them, that's absolutely not the case.
Okay, but you got to understand that Islam is it's a very nuanced thing. You can't just look at Islam as a whole and say it's their problem. But again, this is the problem that I get with people who are anti-Islamic, is that they don't see the wood for the trees, and this is why it's irrational to be anti-Islamic. Because the thing is that if you actually look at Islam, it is very nuanced, and there are Muslims who find it peaceful and live peaceful, blissful lives, and don't bother anybody, don't hurt anybody, and don't bomb one person and just live a nice life. Now, they may hold beliefs I don't. Like, for example, I think it's okay if somebody makes Jesus Christ Kung Fu Puncher or, something like that. I think that's okay. Whereas they're not okay with somebody drawing Muhammad. Now, again, that's a belief I don't share, but again, they're free to have it because that's what the Western world is. It's about freedom of ideas.
You know what? Let me argue from the perspective. Let's say, for the sake of argument, um, the Old Testament rule was still in play that we are to kill homosexuals, right? Let's say
Right.
I'm arguing that for the sake of argument. All
Okay.
right. You have that as the premise here. You're supposed to kill homosexuals, but you don't see Christians around the world killing homosexuals.
Actually, you do.
And there's wait, oh, let me finish. And you can counter after. You don't have, Christians around the world killing homosexuals and they follow what's said there. But you do have a consistency of gays and other people being killed around the world in the Quran. You do have a consistency of that happening, and it's in the Quran that you're supposed to do things like kill homosexuals. There is a consistency of messed up things commanded in the Quran, and people are living them worldwide. You cannot say the same thing for Christianity, especially given what I just said about many places in the world where Christianity is outright illegal.
Right, but the thing is that there are nations where Christians do kill gays, like Uganda, like Nigeria, like a lot of places in Africa where gays are killed because of a brand of faith that's been brought over from America, and a lot of
Well,
gays have either been told that they have to take some witch doctory stuff to stop them being gay, or or having to do all sorts of awful things. And people are using Christianity as a reason. Now, again, I think that's not the real reason. I think the real reason is because the reason it was here, which is it makes us feel icky. And this is the problem: is that people are using the faith to justify their blatant homophobia and do awful stuff to gay people. Um, so yeah, there are Christians out there who used to kill gay people, and have done historically, and even in the present. So this is the problem: is that the faith has been used by people who have had the homophobic tendencies and brought the things out of the Old Testament to kill gay people. I mean, the thing is that Jesus was against that, but again, a lot of people forget that we're supposed to follow Jesus and not the Old Testament. But hey, what we're supposed to do that.
Name 10 countries off the top of my head and where Christianity put you in jail or you get you killed. North Korea, Iran, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, uh, Maldives, Yemen, Iraq, Uzbekistan, and Laos. How many countries can you name off the top of your head where Christianity is legal? I mean Christianity. Is like oppressing, other people beliefs where other views are illegal under Christian-run countries. How many can you name off the top of your head?
Well, America.
What? No, America over here in the United States aren't killing and imprisoning other people.
No. But
That's not happening.
atheists are the most distrusted people in America. If you come out as atheist, you find it hard to get a job, hard to, stay friends, hard to have a social circle, hard to be accepted.
I don't question that, they're one of the most distrusted people, but that is quite far and away, different.
Yeah, but that's still oppressing them. That's still that's still oppression because they're not being treated as like everybody else.
That is far and away with imprisonment and getting killed, murdered. You cannot
even you asked me when they're being oppressed, and I gave you again. The thing is, oppression isn't just about imprisonment; it's about how you're treated by society.
That is an absolute.
Again, there are Christians all over the Middle East. As we talk about Coptics, before there are Coptics in Iran, there are Coptics in Iraq, there are Coptics in Somalia, the Coptics in Saudi Arabia. Coptic Christians are a dominant and sect in those countries, and they're not as Muslim sects. It's not illegal to be a Christian in those countries.
You telling me one of those countries right off the bat? I told you, Christianity was illegal, and you telling me that they got Christians to where it's legal in Saudi Arabia? You got to be kidding me, sir. To where it's legal to be a Christian. Well, I just told you it was illegal to be a Christian in Saudi Arabia.
It's illegal. You can be a Christian in Saudi Arabia.
Yes, it is, dude. You need to look it up. Yes, the name 10 off the top of my head. You need to look this stuff up, sir.
I have. And I'm telling you that there's Coptic Christians in the country, in Iran and Iraq. There are Coptic Christians there.
You know about the stories of Christians who have gotten stoned to death in Saudi Arabia?
Yes, I do know that there's people who've been stoned to death. Again, there are atheist countries that kill religious people.
It's illegal across the entire country. It ain't just. And I'm not saying that, that there aren't certain places in the Middle East where you are indeed free to be a Christian, but in most of them, that's not the case. And Saudi Arabia is one big example, and Iran and Afghanistan is another one.
But Saudi Arabia, there are Christians there, though. Look up Christians in Saudi Arabia and see what you get.
You've got to be kidding me, dude.
No, I'm not saying that you. That is right demonstrably. That you can look this up for yourself if you wish.
I'm not talking about the mere existence of Christians in a nation. I'm talking about where it's free to be a Christian without having to worry about getting put in jail or killed. That's what I'm talking about.
All right, but in Saudi Arabia, Christians aren't killed in Saudi Arabia.
They're killed all the time. Do you not even know about the?
Okay. How many Christians are killed in Saudi Arabia?
Thousands every year. I can't remember the exact number, but it's in the thousands, dude.
It's in the thousands.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know where you got that number from. The thing is that Saudi Arabia is one of the biggest friends with America, which is predominantly, even though it's not a Christian country, in its source, it's a Christian country in its numbers.
That doesn't mean anything, sir. What the United States does business at has absolutely nothing to do with how the countries they do business with run their nations. That is two different issues, sir.
Okay, where's the UN numbers that back this up?
All right, hold on a sec, man. All right. Let's see here.
long cancer has been kept behind closed doors, surrounded by fear. But as more and more of us join the community, those awkward conversations have got to stop.
All right.
We've got to learn to live with cancer.
Yeah, let me screen share something for you real quick. And
Yeah,
this
go
is from
ahead.
this is from CNN, a liberal network.
Yep.
No friend of Christians. I can tell you that for a fact. All right. I'm going to screen share this for you. And all right, where the heck is the? Okay, here we go.
Are you or someone you know living with cancer? The Open University has produced a free book.
Alrighty. Christian persecution reached record high in 2015. Report says last year was the most violent for Christians in modern history, rising to a level akin to ethnic cleansing, according to a new report by Open Doors USA, a watchdog group that advocates for Christians. In the total survey, found that more than 7,100 Christians were killed in 2015 for faith-related reasons, up to 3,000 from the previous year, according to the group's analysis of media reports and other public information, as well as external experts. Open Doors report is independently audited by the International Institute of Religious Freedom. Open Doors USA is an organization that works with Christians worldwide to equip and encourage those living under persecution, while also helping churches in America advocate for the persecuted around the world. Let's see here. Let me scroll down real quick. Here we go. The presence of Islamic extremist factions across the world in 2015 brought religious persecution for not only Christians, but also Muslims, Yazid, I don't know how to pronounce that, and other religious minorities, report found. Notably, Iraq, number 2, and Syria, number 5, are the epicenter of ISIS, so-called, I don't know how to pronounce that word, while Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, and Libya all have elements of Islamic extremism. Curry said that while Islamic extremism is one of the driving forces of Christian persecution, peace-loving Muslims can make an impact part of their culture. All right, let's see. All right. Okay, in fact, part of the reason for the annual list, according to Curry, is to highlight for U.S. policymakers the continued persecution of Christians by our geopolitical allies. Countries such as Saudi Arabia and India are key global partners for the United States. Yet, Open Doors ranks both in its top 50 of persecutions of Christians. This is coming from CNN, man.
Right, but
And this is coming from CNN. And one of those countries is Saudi Arabia. And they said more than 7,100 in 2015, up 3,000 from the previous year. And you got to understand the populations of those countries too. The populations of those countries are far, far smaller than like places like the United States, for example. That's not a small number of people we're talking about here, especially given their much, much lower populations.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I don't really know what you're gonna like argue against here, sir.
I'm arguing against the fact that Christians do exist and do so without threat of violence in Saudi Arabia. That's all I'm arguing against, because they have for centuries.
Okay, sir, you can keep arguing
No.
against all you want
This is
to.
not a belief. This is trackable.
I just,
I mean, I'm not saying that Saudi Arabia is the most open-minded country when it comes to this. And hardly. If you wanted to say to me that Saudi Arabia has very backward attitudes towards religious freedoms, I would agree with that. If you wanted to say to me that a lot of Christians probably don't pray in public, I probably would agree with that. If you were to say to me, but I don't think they actually go out to kill them, because again, the thing is that they have very strict laws, and if Christians break those laws, that's maybe the reason why. If you want to say that those laws are wrong, then I would agree with you.
now the only way that it would be, possible for Christians to live in dangerous areas like those is if, they have like rebels or something like that, and they would like have their own like independent like parts of the country with rebels and stuff like this.
Mm.
That would be like the one way that it's done. So I mean, I would not argue with that point, but you can't get around the persecution, in
No, I'm
most.
not saying I'm not saying that they're not persecuted. I never said that. I said that that again they live there and they live there mostly peacefully. I mean, unless they break the laws there, and that's the same as breaking the laws in America. If I
I'm
was
not merely talking about like breaking laws. I'm talking about the fact that if in many places in the Middle East, if you are even a Christian at all, and they find out about it, if you like possess a Bible and they find out about it, you can get anywhere from being put in jail or killed.
right, I don't think that's necessarily true. I think that's just a scare story.
You can believe what you want, sir. I gave you a liberal source.
No,
Like in no
I'm not saying I've
way.
got the book to the level of saucer, but I'm setting it on face value. I've got no reason not to. I'm just giving why I think why I that what I know about Christianity in the Middle East, especially in those sort of areas, and it's mostly accepted because the Muslims are the Saudi Arabia regime is very bad one. I mean, if you were good to use that, I mean, if you want me to defend the Saudi Arabian regime, I would never do that. They're very barbaric, they're very harsh, and they're very wrong in the way that they do things. You want me to admit that? And there you go. You got that from me. I would never.
I want to go back to what you said earlier about like those tweets being troll accounts. Like what you were basically telling me is that there were tons and tons and tons of troll accounts set up explicitly to
No, no,
make
no, no. I said that the troll counts are noticeably troll counts because if you go through their history and they tweet stuff like, you know, 7-7 was a good thing, lols, stuff like that. I'm not going to take that seriously versus somebody who's like, all right, let's say for example, someone said was like, was like praise Allah, blah blah blah, and then everything else was they said was pretty neutral from that. I'm going to take that more seriously than if it's somebody who's doing stuff like that because like that is red flags to somebody who's trying to get clicks and attention.
Yeah, because you would be telling me that it's thousands upon thousands of troll accounts that are there that were originally set up for the sole
No,
purpose
I'm
of
not
trying to
saying.
make Islam look bad.
No, I'm not saying they're trying to link the troll. I'm saying that they're trying to get attention from themselves. It has nothing to do with Islam. It has something to do with trying to get attention. It's the same thing as like, for example, when the Russian airline, Malaysian Airlines went over, Russia went, Vladimir Putin is the best, lols, or Vladimir Putin is the best forevers and stuff like that. And they're just doing it to get attention.
Trying,
You don't see the
trying to
sense of
get
it.
trying to get attention. Okay, so if it was a bunch of Christians doing that exact same thing, they would be like, these aren't troll accounts. And they was like, this is the extremist Christian camp doing this. And they would like not waste a second
to attack Christianity. If it was a bunch of if these were troll accounts, as you say,
Right,
they
but
would not. They
the
would.
people
They would
who
not
people who
make the same argument for if it were
right, but
Christians
people
who
who
were doing this.
people
They
make
would not be.
the arguments against Christians in the same way are stupid. Because again, you can't denounce an entire faith based upon what a subgroup of that group does or says. Because some are going to be trolls as well. But not only that, the people who are serious with it are people that, like, you know, that most Christians wouldn't associate themselves with anyway. So if somebody uses that as all how moral Christianity is, well, that's a rather fallacious argument. It's a fallacious argument called guilt by association. Because again, you associate just because they've got one thing about them. And again, I find guilt by association very bad.
They was already trying to do it, sir. They found two nut jobs, that were Christians, and they blew that, to a high degree in the media. All right, they blew it to such a high degree in the media, and they like made you see it like day and night that these people, and they put it in front of your face day and night that these were Christians that were doing this. All right, but when you had the attack by dude who was said to be Muslim, no, all Muslims aren't responsible for it.
Right, but again,
They'll do damage control real quick with Muslims and Islam, but that's not gonna happen the same way with
right.
Christianity.
If they do same thing to Christianity, right, that is a double standard. Because again, you can't make all Christians responsible for what one Christian does. Anybody can make all Muslims responsible for what one Muslim does. Again, you can't do that. It's a guilt by association fallacy.
That's right, and the media is absolutely irresponsible in how they treat these matters.
Right,
Like
I'm just saying that. I'm just saying that as somebody who is a Christian, I don't like being associated with with these people who kill people because I denounce all people who kill people, whatever their justification is, whether it's political, whether it's religious, whether it's whatever. And the thing is that like anybody who uses that argument to say, "Oh, well, this is why being religious is bad," is stupid. Because again, that isn't against religion. That's against like people being violent, and people will be violent for whatever reason they want. Like for example, there's a guy recently, as I said, in this country who killed somebody because we're devoted to whether to remain or leave the EU. Now the thing is that this guy gave his name in court as all EPs are traitors, Britain is stronger together. That is the legal name he gave. The thing is, that points out that it's nothing to do with religion and everything to do with people being, just being violent in nature and then just finding excuses in themselves to do violence. That's nothing, again, would that mean that all people who are anti-EU are going to be violent? No, of course not. Because, again, that would be silly and that takes away from people being anti-EU. Again, this is the problem. Is that it's a special pleading. If you look at it, a lot of the people who are against it. So,
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Special pleading, I do.
Right. So that's my point. Is that like Muslims are just the same as Christians in that most of them are peaceful. Most of them don't want to harm anybody. Most of them just want to live in peace. Or if they don't want to live in peace, they're being subjugated so much that they don't have any will of their own to do anything. All they're doing is being subjugated by the governments they're in. That they've been silenced and beat down so much that they've got no voice. Now again, this is the problem. Is that like when it comes to Islam, people seem to lose their rationality. It's like, oh, all Muslims are this. It's like no, it's very nuanced.
No, I don't think anybody's saying all Muslims like this. I think the proper argument is, like I said earlier, you see a consistency of attacks worldwide happening by people who identify with Islam, and it can be said to be like this: not not all Muslims are terrorists, but almost all terrorist attacks were done by Muslims. Does that make sense?
Where do you get that number from? Where
Well,
do you get
that
that
well,
statistic from?
it's what about? I mean, like
Well, I can
like
name
you
you
can see,
several groups that are terrorist organizations that are not Muslim.
but you can see it. I mean, even in the liberal media, they're like another bomb
Okay,
attack from ISIS group, which are typically a group of Islam or
okay.
people who are
The
usually
Tamil
Islam.
Tigers, they were a secular terrorist organization. Um, let's think about it. The what's it called? By the way, you might want to broadcast him. By the way,
Hmm.
I'm trying to think of some others like the IRA. They were a Catholic. It was because they were Irish Republicans. They were a terrorist organisation. Um, has Hezbollah is a Jewish terrorist organisation. I can name you loads. I mean, like the thing is that this whole thing is nonsense. The only people who say stuff like that are Islamophobes.
Well, can you say that these organizations are blowing up people, in multiple places around the world on a daily basis, like in Islamic extremism? Can you say that?
Well, Islamic extremism doesn't blow people up on a daily basis.
Oh, it happens
As I said, you're
almost every day.
statistically
You
more
hear
more
that.
likely to drown in your bath than you are to be a victim of a terrorist organisation.
Okay,
It's a terrorist attack, and the thing
right.
is that
You can make that argument, but that would mean you even more less likely by other groups who are extremists. You may be less likely by the argument you just gave, but you would even be far more or less likely by other groups.
no, I mean I just have nuanced way of looking at things. That I see all terrorism, not just the ones I want to see.
Oh, I see all terrorism all right. I just don't see all terrorism fairly looked at as such. And I think, like for example, well, this isn't a terrorist example, but it's another example that can kind of bridge my point. Like there's this Islamic Community Center in Tip, Arizona, and this transgender Muslim, um, I believe it was a transgender woman, had to prove that this person was a woman or had to say that they were a man, right? And if they didn't do either, then they could not go to the Islamic Community Center. They couldn't go in there. And this is excuse me, this Islamic Community Center in Tempe, Arizona did this, and the Phoenix it was a Phoenix publication that broke this story.
Okay.
And wait, let me finish.
No, I was
And
going to say that.
there was not a word, there was not hardly a word about it in the mainstream media. Maybe one or two might have said something about it, but the majority of mainstream sources didn't even mention it. I did a video on it and showed like several different LGBT organizations. Didn't mention a thing about it. Not even the ACLU mentioned anything about it. And they claim to be super pro LGBT Q rights, and they didn't say a word about it. Now, if there was any kind of discrimination by a Christian, like with the whole cake thing, the whole bakery cake thing, they would have blown it up to death, and people would have never heard the end of it. But this happened in Phoenix, Arizona. Well, not Phoenix, but in Tempe, Arizona, and was not hardly a word said about it. Now tell me that a lot of the mainstream media aren't turning their backs on the LGBTQ community when they claim to be for LGBTQ rights, but they don't equally call out, discrimination when it's Islamic Muslims doing it.
Okay, Tim hasn't spoken yet, so I'm going to give him a chance to speak.
Okay.
Oh yeah, what was the main point of the whole thing comparing the LGBT to the Christianity thing?
What's that?
What was the main point of that, of the Christianity thing, of the LGBT versus the Christians, of equal
What did
punishments?
what you talk? Are you? Did you see the video that I put up earlier?
No.
Oh well, this hangout was talking about a video that I put up earlier, and how I was expressing my concerns about how there's a fairly large part of the liberal side, particularly in the mainstream media, who do not treat Christians the same as Muslims. You see, if as I said earlier, if only you had the Planned Parenthood shooter, he's a Christian. They blasted that story to death and made sure you knew that that dude was an extremist. But if, let's say, the Orlando killings at the Pulse nightclub was also done by a Christian, again, they would have blasted it to death as extremism, as terrorism. And I would agree with them, rightfully so. Terrorism is terrorism, no matter whether it comes from a Christian or Muslim or what have you. But if a Muslim did both of those things, let's say shot up Planned Parenthood, and the Islamic Muslim shot up Planned Parenthood, and the Islamic Muslim did that attack at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, they would still find a way to draw it to Christians, directly or indirectly. Now, you tell me if that's fair treatment of Christianity and Islam. It isn't.
Yeah, it isn't. But like, there's some Christians that agree of what the Muslims did. But I agree that it shouldn't be all blamed on Christians though. But some Christians
Right.
actually agree, but they should be like condemned,
Yeah,
I guess.
absolutely. And I made a video expressly condemning them. In fact, I said that at the time, I honestly had forgotten to do it because it was two dudes who was running their mouths all stupid. I had honestly forgot to do a video on the other guy, but my argument is basically the same. I did a video on the Jimenez dude who was running his mouth all stupid, talking about how they deserve these deaths and whatnot. He is unworthy of his title as pastor, and he absolutely should be relinquished of his title immediately and should not be able to pastoral in any sort of capacity ever again. And he needs to repent immediately
His name is
because
Pat.
no, his name, I forgot his first. I think it's like Roger Jimenez or something like that.
There's another guy. His name is Pastor.
Oh, the other guy was like Anderson, I think is his name. Something Anderson.
Yeah, Pastor Stephen Anderson something.
Yeah, I think you got it. Yeah, but he was a moron too. He was just beyond. His
Yeah,
comments was just beyond unconscionable.
I have a link to the video. of him like expressing it. Let me put it on the side. I
If
looked at it. It's 6 minutes.
sure, I'll go ahead and play it. Why not? Actually, actually, I'll do it this way. I'll play it through the YouTube app.
Okay.
So like, do you agree with like what he says though? Like he says that it says in the Bible that that's supposed to happen, but like I guess the laws change though. But
Oh, it's in there, but here's the kicker, and this is not new. It was in the Old Testament, not the New. When Jesus came, he fulfilled the law, and we're under a new covenant of grace. We are no longer to do that sort of thing. We do not kill homosexuals. And a whole lot of people are ignoring that, conveniently ignoring that, I might add.
yeah, he said in the video. Well,
I'm
spoiler.
playing. I'm trying to play it now. Hold on.
All
Yeah,
right.
you might do better doing it through screen share, mate.
What's that?
You might do better doing it through screen share because
Uh,
the
uh,
YouTube app can be a bit problematic sometimes.
all right. All right. I'll just do screen share. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Okay. All right. Here we go.
Pastor, obviously, you've probably gotten a firestorm of reaction to
Yes, I
what
have.
was said in your
Right.
sermon. What's your response?
Well, let me start by saying that I don't regret anything that I said, and I don't take back anything that I said. I do think that most people out there have not listened to the sermon in its context and are basically just taking what the media is portraying. And the media, for the most
The media ain't portraying nothing. You a freaking idiot. The media ain't portraying nothing wrong. I don't agree with the media most of the time, but they're absolutely not distorting what you are saying, you freaking bastard.
Yeah.
are flat out lying. When they're putting out reports saying that I'm calling for people to take up arms against homosexuals or that I'm trying to get people to go out and do things like this, well, that's just completely a lie. Because if you listen to the sermon, several times I stated that this is not something that we are to do. This is not something that we're supposed to go out and do. And I will
Now he's trying to dig his way out of it. Absolutely pathetic. He just doesn't want to repent for his comments. This dude is sick.
telling people we shouldn't be doing these things, taking this into our own hands. The point that I was making is that the Bible teaches that these people deserve to die. God puts the death penalty, and there's many places in Scripture, but the one I like to reference just because it's
All people deserve to die according to the biblical context, because we're all sinners. We've all have fallen short of the glory of God. That's the crucial part that he failed to mention, and he's trying to paint a brush on just homosexuals and extrapolate it and run with a fallacious point. He didn't put himself in a category because he's a decrepit sinner just like I am and the rest of us. And because he did that, he clearly just outed and singled out gay people and just made his hateful comments. Now he's trying to, squirm his way out of it. This dude is sick.
Yeah, that's true. Like, they should at least be let live until to let them like repent of what they're doing
Yeah,
with the homosexuals.
yeah. I'm gonna get so mad. I can't finish watching this. Yeah, but I'm gonna get really mad watching all that all the way through. But I appreciate you giving me the video, man.
No,
No problem.
I mean, as a Christian myself, I denounce such attitudes because, again, they don't speak to what my faith is. Again, I'm I'm not homophobic at all. I believe in gay marriage. I believe they should have equal rights. They should be able to adopt children, and I think that anybody who doesn't believe that is really just wrong. And that's just what that's what I believe. That's what my faith is. My faith is that I that I sin a lot, so I don't see what right it gives anybody else to judge other people's sins. There is no right. So let's say homosexuality was the sin, then what right do you have to judge other people? The only person who gets to judge people is God, and that's the whole point.
Yeah, he just
Why?
completely twisted and distorted crap, and he's trying to backpedal.
Just a minute, you just interrupted Tim, who's in the middle of a sentence.
I'm sorry, man. Go ahead.
I was like, I don't care.
What was you about to say?
I was about to ask, why'd you title liberals are hypocrites?
Because I am a liberal. I am a liberal. And again, but the thing is that what he actually means is the secular liberal media is what he actually means. Because I think he's talking about the way that they report, for example, a Christian doing a terrorist attack, like, for example, the killing of George Tiller or something like that, versus the way that they report the Orlando shootings is different. And I was like thinking, well, the thing is that the guy in Orlando was a guy who was a borderline psychotic, was triggered by seeing two people kiss, and I don't think you can point that to, well, it's because he was homophobic. I think he was triggered because he had latent homosexual tendencies apparently, and that's what caused it. It's nothing to do with being Islamic. And I think that's the problem Antonio doesn't seem to understand, is that it's not an Islamic problem, it's a person with mental issues who didn't get the help he needed issue.
Alright, I'm going to show you yet another video, and this is even by an atheist, alright? And
if it's Muslim, I believe it.
Well, hold
it could
on
be,
a second.
Gary, it could have been because he was Islam too, though. Like, you can't just like hide that fact.
Okay,
it could have been part of it.
Okay, but the thing is that we know that there was a pattern of violent behaviour before this. So and Islam had bugger all to do with that. It's to do with the fact that he had psychotic tendencies and he didn't get the help because of the way that we look at mental health in this society.
It's also because like it's part of it. The whole like cycle, like his whole psyche.
I'm about to show you another video by an atheist, okay? So just to show you that
it's not like I'm leaving.
9 times out of 10, you guys are already aware of the recent terror attacks in Orlando. And while I know it doesn't mean much, I do extend good thoughts and strength to the victims and their families. I just wanted to briefly share some of my thoughts on the situation and, of course, reflect on some of the public reactions. So the thing is, whenever a tragedy occurs, everyone always has an idea of how their supposed government policy could have prevented the said tragedy. Right now, gun control advocates are saying that we need stricter gun laws to prevent this from happening. Yet, when the same situation occurs in areas with very strict gun control laws, like Paris, their arguments are null and void. Same with conservatives calling for a ban on Muslims. It's such an ingenious policy, that is, until a domestic European Westerner becomes an Islamic radical. And self-admittedly, even with people like me who think that gun-free zones are stupid and that armed security is the best way to defend against these type of attacks. Whereas in this case, I'm not sure if the club was a gun-free zone, but there was armed security present, and it didn't really do shit. The truth is, sometimes that tragedies just can't and won't be avoided. Now, that doesn't mean precautions shouldn't be taken, but placing heavier restrictions on non-criminals isn't the way. It's no more logical to say ban guns to prevent shootings than it is to say ban Islam to prevent Islamic terrorism. If you believe that peaceful Muslims shouldn't be punished for the actions of extremists, then why would you suggest that peaceful gun owners be punished for the actions of criminals, and vice versa? And don't hit me with the bullshit of, well, nobody's calling for a gun ban. They just want gun control. First of all, that's a lie. The president, along with other various politicians, have repeatedly proposed that private ownership of semi-automatic rifles be criminalized. Also, you know how the idea of government controls over the principles of freedom of speech and freedom of religion don't really sit well with non-authoritarians? Yeah, same with the right to bear arms. But to be honest, the gun grabbers don't piss me off nearly as much as the fucking regressive apologists for Islamic extremism. Every time a terrorist attack is carried out by an Islamist in the name of their religion, all you hear the left talk about is the moderate, peaceful Muslim. Granted, this may be appropriate in response to the minority of idiots who think that all Muslims are terrorists, but most of the time, these comments about peaceful Muslims are directed at people who are criticizing terrorism, not Muslims. Personally, I don't much care about other people's religions or ideologies. I'm an atheist. If you're a Christian who believes that masturbation is immoral, fine. If you're a Muslim who believes that homosexuality is an abomination, fine. If you're a feminist that believes masculinity is toxic, fine. If you're a socialist that believes capitalism is the cause of all things bad in society, fucking fine. The issue for me doesn't arise from one simply holding a set of beliefs. I may voice my disagreements with you, but at the end of the day, those are your beliefs. The issue arises from the authoritarian enforcement of those beliefs. The issue arises when Christians seek to pass religious legislation through federal and state governments. The issue arises when feminists attempt to ban problematic expressions of male identity. The issue arises when socialists try and involuntarily regulate or control trade and property. And the issue arises when Islamists enact holy war and massacre infidels. I know, the crazy libertarian condemning the use of force against non-violent people. Nobody wants to listen to that because consistently criticizing authoritarianism is inconvenient to their own personal authoritarian pursuits. But getting back to Islam, you know what else I'm tired of hearing, particularly in the case of Islamic attacks on gays? I'm tired of hearing that these acts are all committed in the name of hatred, particularly hatred of gays. Something that people fail to realize is that the Quran legitimizes the execution of homosexuals as an act of compassion. And since most Islamists adhere to the teachings of the Quran, I think it's safe to conclude that most Islamists have compassion for gays. I know, that sounds like a crazy statement, but these people believe that they're performing God's mission. They believe that the execution of homosexuals is merciful. So for any regressives trying to blame this on systematic homophobia, you can fuck right off. This has nothing to do with homophobia, but everything to do with the dogmatic following of a totalitarian cult. If the Quran called for the compassionate murder of people who wear sneakers, then we'd be seeing the same situation play out in a fucking Foot Locker, because the actions of radical Islamists are the direct result of religious teachings. And to a lesser extent, the same is true for moderate Muslims, Christians, Hindus, etc. But when the actions of someone are solely predicated on a religion of peace, and those actions are responsible for the deaths of thousands in the Western world and hundreds of thousands globally, at that point, the focus of critical examination should no longer be placed solely on the individuals, but rather the common ideological foundation that all these attackers share might need some attention too. So if criticizing Islam makes moderate Muslims upset, too fucking bad. If criticizing Islam leads SJWs to call me Islamophobic, they can suck a dick. I don't hold back my criticisms of any other superstitious or authoritarian ideologies to preserve delicate feelings. Islam will not get a fucking pass.
That's it. Yeah, I know there was some strong language in there, but I mean, he makes some valid points. How you doing,
Okay.
bro? Well, thanks for coming, man.
Okay, but here's the problem: is that he doesn't see nuance. He doesn't see nuance, and this is the problem. Intelligent people see nuance. Using big words does not make you intelligent. Saying you're rational doesn't make you so.
You think
You know what makes you rational?
You think that's what he was doing? Was just using just big words and just
No. He was using go to thesaurus and see how big. I'll just use the biggest words I can find instead of understanding that any issue is nuanced. And the thing is that it has nothing to do with Islam and everything to do with the fact that he was a borderline psychotic. And I'm sorry, there is plenty of evidence to back me up on this, which is that he was triggered, for a start, one. Two, he had this shown violent tendencies to his ex-wife. Two, and his ex-wife had said that it wasn't only just to her, but in other ways as well. And the thing is that his father's come out and condemned him, his own son. So if this was a Muslim problem, shouldn't he be celebrated? No, he's come out and publicly said.
Wait a minute.
Can I step in for a quick thing?
Go ahead, Veko.
Unless you want to say something real quick.
No, I've been talking the whole time. You can go, bro.
Yeah, when I hear people say that about these things, these shootings regarding some sort of psychological issue with the perpetrator, to me, I think people are not taking in consideration some of the tenets that are within Islam. That it may be the case that he was psychotic. However, you can't take away from the fact that just because you have so-called moderate Muslims in your community, or even maybe the father of this perp may have condemned the action, that doesn't mean that such a thing as taqiyya is not utilized in in Islamic doctrine. For those of you who don't know what what taqiyya is, it's basically, and I notice other people can explain it a lot better than I can. It's basically the doctrine that when you're in a foreign land or amongst foreign people, you can even deny your own God. You can deny Allah, and you can lie about your position as a Muslim with the intent to dominate the enemy. So you do that by infiltration, and the only way you can infiltrate is by lying your way to the certain point to where you actually get the advantage. So while I believe that there are moderate Muslims, yeah, right. While I believe that there are moderate Muslims out there, the problem is that the fact that we have such things as taqiyya within Islam, it is very hard to believe and to trust anyone who calls himself a Muslim. This guy was married, he had a kid, and he was amongst Americans for many years, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, he wants to shoot up the place. We don't know if that was the result of psychosis, or if he was practicing taqiyya the whole time prior to the moment that he shot up the place.
Yeah.
So to say that to say that it was only psychosis that was a result of that, I think that is, you'd be hard pressed to prove that.
No,
And it's irresponsible, actually, because you potentially put a whole lot of people in harm's way by that sort of rhetoric.
Okay, Tim,
and just because there's moderate Muslims doesn't mean that there's moderate Muslims, but he still could do it because he's Muslim. Like, it doesn't matter about if there's moderate Muslims.
Okay, but
can I make another comment real quick?
The evidence seems to point. Excuse me.
Yeah, you can't. Wait, hold on, Gary. You can after Gary's done talking. Vertical. Go ahead, Gary.
Okay.
Okay.
I gotta go soon.
The evidence seems to point to that he had a psychotic break. The thing is that he was triggered. Now, the thing is that again, I know because I studied mental health a little bit, not a lot, but enough to know about it, that the guy was triggered by seeing two gay people kissing. And the thing is that triggered him to do what he did. The thing is that now people have said, oh, this is it's not an Islamic problem, it's a mental health and gun problem. The thing is that the fact he was Muslim is inconsequential.
Nobody said any shot up that Planned Parenthood clinic. When Robert did shot up that Planned Parenthood clinic, killed 3 people, injured 9. Nobody said it was some mental issue. Nobody said any such thing about it.
Was he in charge of all his? Was he triggered in some way? He may have been so. Again, I can't speak to the mental health of Robert, whatever his face was. What I can speak to is what people have said about this individual and the things that led up to what he did. Again, this is a problem. Is that again you're asking me to compare one case where a guy is clearly exhibiting violent tendencies to a case where the guy could have been, for all I know. I'll say for the sake of argument, yeah, he was, because again I don't know unless I look more into the case. I can't know. All I'm saying is, based upon what his ex-wife said, and based upon what people said that actually happened, it sounds to me like a psychotic triggering.
Go ahead, Veckel.
Yeah, I find that, 2 things I've noticed with the liberals. One is the moment the shooting took place, and the guy, it is clearly reported that right before he started shooting up the place, he yelled out the war cry, Allahu Akbar, and then he shot up the place. Yep. So it was very clear that there was some Muslim influence or
Islam.
involvement in it.
Islam,
Yeah,
at the very least.
Islam, right. Now, but right after that, not far after that tragedy occurred, what do we hear some liberals saying on Twitter and stuff like that? You can go to Mark Dice's channel. Yeah, they immediately wanted to point some type of blame on the Christians. And they were saying things, they weren't blaming Christians, but they were saying things like, oh, watch the Christians respond to this, or where were the Christians when this happened?
Or you Christians probably like this.
Yeah, you Christians probably like this. So here we have the liberals pointing the fingers at, they're looking for a scapegoat, and what better people than the Christians to do this to? Now, the other thing I wanted to say is that let somebody do this in another situation, and then it gets found out that this person has some sort of Christian background, or that maybe he went to a Christian church at age 12. Watch how immediately the liberal media will try to assert that it was some sort of Christian idea rather than him being psychotic.
Exactly.
But they will try to say it was a Christian idea that he shot up this abortion clinic, or that he shot up these gay people. But they're not going to give the same type of understanding towards Islam, or towards this guy in Orlando. They want to now try to say that he has some sort of psychotic issue with his brain, rather than apply it to the religion that he affirmed right before he started shooting up the place. Go ahead, sorry.
Right, and the LGBT community has, liberals have stabbed the LGBTQ community in the back. All right, all this nonsense that wait, let me finish. All this nonsense that they're saying about this case and about Islam is not going to stop violence towards gays at all. That's not going to even slow it down. What we are talking about on our side will, at the very least, slow it down. We are trying to protect gays. They're not. They're stabbing them in the back by protecting these killers, these murderers, these thugs.
Okay, how can you stop a person from having a psychotic break and killing 50 people? That's my question. You can't. It can just happen like that. People have psychotic breaks all the time and kill people. It's just unfortunately what comes with life and with the mental health.
But there would be no chance of it even being revealed as a psychotic break if it was a Christian. I guarantee it. You can look at what the heck is that guy's name? The abortionist some years back that was killed by a Christian. You can look at again the Robert Deere case. A shooting by a Christian, and other such cases to where a Christian was responsible.
Right,
and none of them have I ever heard of. None have I ever heard of was a psychotic. Like, no.
Right, but the thing is that you're taking one fallacious argument and saying, oh, it should be applied to Muslims. No, it shouldn't apply to either. Because, again, this is how it should work, that it was this individual's wants. Again, this is the problem that you see is that, again, I don't think this is a Christian Islam problem. This is a person who was very troubled and has access to weapons. Again, we don't see...
I don't give a crap how troubled he was. I don't give a crap how troubled he was. And nobody would give a crap how troubled a Christian was. I guarantee it. And I think you're just blind, sir.
Right, so we're thinking a fallacious argument that some atheists use against Christians and then saying we should apply it to Muslims as well. No, it's a fallacious argument either way. I'm saying it should not be applied to either. And I think this shouldn't be... Again, this is a tragedy. And the thing is that you said that...
I think the writings on the wall, I think it's obvious, sir.
You see the liberals have sold out gay people. In what way? Because the thing is that gay people, right... Gay people are part of liberals, and the thing is that they're probably the last people who want to hate on Islamic Muslim people. for this reason, right? They know what it's like to be the other. They know what it's like to be treated with fear and contempt, and based upon a small, because it's a living memory that we had the AIDS epidemic, and who was blamed for that? It was the gays, because it was just a nice small niche group that it happened to belong to. So basically, um, this is the problem that you have, is that the gays out there will probably be in Muslims, because they'll see that, like, just like they were, one or two people, acted irresponsibly, and it got put on all of them. And I think the last people who want to spread this word is gay people, because they belong on the end of it.
Okay, I'm gonna show you yet another video because
Uh,
apparently all the facts I've been giving you ain't been enough, and I'm just gonna keep piling them on to you. Did you want to say
Gary.
something, Tim?
Yeah, Gary. Do you think it has anything to do with his Muslim background? Like any part of it? Like you can't just like
I
hide
don't
it.
know. The honest answer is I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't. I don't know. I'm just saying that, like, it seems to be not really a primary factor. One of the primary factors. The primary
You don't think
factors
it's a
seem to
factor at
me
all?
is
Like
his unwanted violent tendencies, and the fact that he had latent homosexual thoughts. And the thing is that I think the two came together for a perfect storm. Now, was his Muslim background the reason he was suppressing that? Possibly, and was that maybe causing him damage? Possibly. I mean, I'll concede that, but the thing is that I think the fact that we're automatically going straight to Muslim instead of straight to the violent tendencies he was showing and his latent homosexuality
but
is
like
like,
the evidence shows that it's like part of it though. It's like it's part of it. His Muslim background is like I guess his psychotic background, but there's a little bit of Muslim in it.
All right, I'm gonna give you some more clear proof of the absolute liberal bias and how they treat this issue. This is going to be a little wild, but it's necessary for you to see the whole thing. Coming at you once again with another video. And in this particular video, I'm going to destroy some rhetoric. Because you see, those who typically claim to be pro-transgender rights usually aren't as pro-transgender rights as they claim to be. I am not, saying this is the case for all people, but for, I would say, at least a substantial amount of them, this is the case. And I'm going to back that up by showing you a story that was from last November in 2015, November 26, 2015. The story was transgender woman barred from 10th mosque unless she dresses as a man or can prove she's a woman. And the story is leaders of a 10th mosque have decided that if congregant Sumuya Dawood, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, wants to continue attending prayers and other community functions at the Islamic Community Center, she must either dress and pray as a man or provide medical documentation that she's anatomically female. I'm going to leave a link in the description if you want to read the entire story. But this was a story reported by the Phoenix New Times last November. Now, typically when discrimination happens to LGBTQ, groups or people or whatever, you have social justice groups and liberal groups and pro-LGBTQ groups that are all over it. When the Christian one refused to bake a cake because the cake that was asked to be baked was inconsistent with their personal beliefs, they did everything they wanted to do to destroy the Christian. All right? They wanted to do everything they wanted to do. Now,
This story is going to be pointing out their gaping hypocrisy here. And I'm going to do that in the following way. I looked up a list of gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender liberation groups. You got groups like National Gay and Lesbian Task Force, Human Rights Campaign, Lambda Legal Defense and Education Fund, Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network, National Youth Advocacy Coalition, Soul Force, Parents, Families, and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, the Williams Institute on Sexual Orientation Law and Public Policy, International Gay and Lesbian Human Rights Commission, just all sorts of groups on this. Now, if you want to see what their outrage to this Islamic Community Center in Tempe, Arizona was, if you want to notice their sheer outrage to the discrimination of this claim to be transgender woman, if you want to know what the sheer outrage was about, then let's do a little search. Let's look at some of these groups. All right, the National LGBTQ Task Force. Let's search up Mr. or Miss or whatever pro LGBTQ people, politically correct people want to say he or she is. All right. I personally am going to say he. All right. I'm not going to say someone who is biologically a man as a woman. And I don't care if you get offended by that. But anyway, here's the search for this person. Well, would you look at that? No results. You would like to think if they were so for LGBTQ rights and equality, that would be a story on their website to point out the inequality, but there is no results. So wouldn't you imagine that? Let's try another one. The Human Rights Campaign. Let's search Samuel Dawood. Here's one result here, and they mention it. Let's see. LGBT people effect are coming out and coming home. All right, I already took a look at this story, and most of them isn't even talking about that particular event. But if you scroll down, it points out the story that she was barred, that Samui Dawood, a Muslim transgender woman, was barred from the women's prayer space where she felt most comfortable. And that just leads to the story that I already just showed you in the Phoenix Times. But notice they just pointed out that that happened. There is absolutely no denouncing of this Islamic Community Center. There's no campaign to get these people shut down. There's no campaign to sue these people, find these people, nothing. They just pointed out that that happened. But they, no big campaign to get these people sued or nothing. So basically, they kind of mention it in passing, but they don't really come down on a level like what happened with that Christian who didn't want to bake a cake. Okay, let's try another one. Lambda Legal Defense. Or is it defense, I think? Yeah, legal defense, okay. Lambda Legal Defense. making the case for equality, clearly for LGBTQ people. All right, let's see. Samia Dawood, no results. And let's try shortening the results to see if that changes anything. Well, what do you know? No results. Okay. The outrage is just searing, isn't it? Let's try glad. All right. A very, very big. I'm talking about the Pulse shooting, but this is
Okay,
very,
all right. I can see that it wasn't reported in LGBT communities. All right.
equality and rights. Yeah, let's look at.
What'd you say?
I just say that I set what's been said here just so we could like speed it up a little bit.
I didn't say it wasn't reported at all, but most of them, it was like reported by very, very few sources. Most of them didn't say anything.
Okay, but again, the reason
Let me see the video.
the reason the transgender thing is an issue. Okay, and maybe this is the difference is that people are trying to stop people going to the bathroom they feel.
Now, hold your thought. Let's keep watching. Hold your thought, man.
You here and talk about this person being a transgender Muslim woman. And let's see. Just talks about her being an activist. It's asking her questions. Let's see. Let's scroll down to here's a good one. How has your faith community been during your transition? Do you think they can be even more accepting? Once my transgender status became public, I found the community rather polarized on the issue. Many Muslims have come forward and expressed their support, love, and understanding, as well as acceptance for who I am. There are many Muslims, however, who will not associate with me or support me, including Islamic leaders. I pray that the community will become more educated and accepting over time. You see? Okay, glad. Yes. No announcing of the Islamic Community Center in Tempe, Arizona. Just a mention of her. So, yes, the outrage continues to be on a monumental scale. It is just laughable. Let's try another one. Another LGBT group. Smooth Dawood. No results. Would you look at that? Just sad. Okay. And here's another one for a Soul Force. Because Soul Force didn't have a search on their website, I did a Google search and connected it to Soul Force. And there was no results from Soul Force. Okay, here is a Soul Force right here. Another LGBT group. Blog post talks about bathrooms and the right to life. They don't have a search bar as far as I can tell, but that's why I did a Google search on Soul Force and Samuya Daru, however you pronounce that. No, no results for Soul Force. This is laughable, people. All right. Here's another one. Another LGBT equality group. They had mentioned the Orlando shooting. Let's search for Samoya Dawood. Samoya Dawood, nothing. Would you imagine my shock here? Alright, shorten the results, nothing. This is just baffling. This is pathetic. Okay, let's try another one. Outreach or Outright Action International, formerly known as the International Gay and Lesbian Human Rights Commission. All right, Samoya Dawood. They had mentioned the Orlando shooting.
I tell you.
No,
I just need to ask you something. Steve McRae would like the link in the live chat, please.
Well, hold on a second. Let the video finish.
No, I am. I'm just saying that he wants the link. I'm just telling you this because that's what he's asked me to ask you.
I'll give it to him after the video's over.
Yeah, you can even, I'll shorten it again. No results. Checking their own websites, nobody's talking about this. Let's see, ACL. I looked up results for the ACLU, didn't find anything. Let's go straight to ACLU's website. Let's see. All right. American Salute, Salute, Blaze Foundation. Let's search Samoya Dawood. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. All right. Let's try Dawood again. None of these results are even remotely related to Dawood. These are super old results, and there's no connection in any of these results to. So, yeah, absolutely nothing. Supposed to be one of the biggest advocates for LGBTQ rights, the ACLU said absolutely nothing. Let's see what Salon.com had to say. Let's do Salon.com. And obviously huge liberal publication. All right. Let's see some of you. Hold on. Let's see. Here's the proper search bar. Okay. Would you look at that? No results. And none of these results are even remotely related to. So again, the writings on the wall, people, it's obvious. The raving hypocrisy and the obvious and the deafening silence for people who claim to be pro-transgender rights. The main groups, the top groups, not saying a dang thing about it. These people only care about promoting a narrative, people. They only care about trying to go after people, certain people who they claim to be anti-LGBTQ rights. Typically Christians, which is their main target, but type of stuff, nobody says anything. Their own people say nothing. If you don't see a problem with this, if you don't see the raving hypocrisy here, then you are an absolute fool. That's just point blank. That's just the bottom line, all right? This is absolutely pathetic. Anyway, that's all I wanted to put forth to you guys, and I hope you all enjoyed the video. But before I put this video to a complete close, it's just important that we end it with this thought from our fellow social justice warrior. If you are truly interested in truly pointing out bigotry and discrimination and anti-social justice warrior ideals, then you need to be just like this person right here. And who am I talking about? I'm talking about our really special friend, Anita Sarkeesian. Because here's the bottom line. If you were going to point out this hypocrisy, then be consistent in pointing out hypocrisy. Because
like when you start learning about systems, everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is homophobic, and you have to point it all out.
And that's it. Thank you for your patience, people.
Okay. Can you link Steve McRae? I don't know if you want to come in now, but he's asked me to ask you, so I'm asking you.
Yeah, sure. I'll post the link in the chat and he can come right in.
No, he says that you have to link him directly because he said that's not working. So go and do it for your G Plus or whatever. Anyway, to the point I was trying to make right. The point is that, like, we all think that what you just showed was bad, okay? So point to bigotry be done, like, for example, somebody's complaining about Chick-fil-A, that's bad. But then saying, well, people don't, well, then you should report about Islam. LGBT people should not be persecuted for what they want to do, and I don't think that. Now, the thing is that if you run a business, you have the right to refer service. However, you don't have the right to refuse service based upon one thing about if they're gay or if they're black or whatever, because that's just because that's not done. It's against the code of ethics that you can't refuse service based upon things like that. You can only refuse it if it's against, let's say, the parameters you've been set. Like, for example, if they're asking for a 50K and they said no to that, and they said, well, because we don't do it in that size, that'd be fair enough, because then that's a reasonable thing to say. Okay. Now the thing is that the reason that was a big issue is because they made a business decision not to serve people when it's against the code of ethics. Okay. The Muslim, whatever it is, centre doesn't have a code of ethics, as far as I know. That this is against. The thing is that you're taking two wrongs and saying, well, one's being controlled by the media. But the thing is that both are wrong, in my opinion. Both are homophobic, and people should not be allowed not to do something just because they're gay, or just because you're whatever.
Really quick, I had Hawktie and I had a conversation about the bakers, okay, and we had a very good conversation about that. The video I just showed you, I had already made that video before, prior to talking to Hawktie in the Hangout. We pretty much came to a consensus on certain things that were said. If you want to look at that hangout, you can see exactly what was discussed. But the relevant issue here is, in fact, the Islamic community way too often gets a pass. They just do, period, point blank. And I gave you irrefutable evidence that they get a pass. We're talking about a transgender woman, or from the perspective of how they say, because I honestly think the dude was just a guy. But if we're going to argue their position that this was a transgender woman who was not allowed into this Islamic community center, that's discrimination, period. All right? You can't.
That affects one sense. Sorry.
It's discrimination, period, and they said nothing. Most groups said nothing. And the main people who claim to support them, most of them said absolutely nothing. And no pressure came upon this Islamic Community Center at all.
Right, but the problem you've got is that this is one center in one part of Phoenix, right? This is not entire states saying that transgender people can't use the right toilet they feel best represents the gender they belong to.
So what if it was only one? If it was
this is the difference.
Hold on a second.
Is that they've been called pedophiles? Are going to be pedophiles because they're transgender. For no other reason. It's not based upon any sort of evidence. It's based upon people feel icky because someone might be being a former man or might be a former woman. Again, most women and most men who are straight don't look at other people's junk in the toilets. I hate to see that truism. And most transgender people don't want to look at other people's junk. You know why? They've got their own to look at.
You're missing the point, Gary. I'm not making an issue about the bathrooms right now. I'm making an issue about the lack of consistency in denouncing people who discriminate against it. It has nothing to do with the bathroom issue, because even if you can make an argument on the bathroom issue, that does not take away that they should consistently apply the same standards to the Islamic Community Center that did not allow that a transgender woman to get into the facility. They got to apply the same arguments no matter who or where the discrimination is coming from. Even if I accept and agree to your argument about the bathroom, that does not take away the discrimination issue from the Islamic Community Center to that Muslim transgender woman.
Right, but here's the problem that you got, is that this is one center, which is basically one center versus an entire state which is doing things like that. Actually, entire states, plural. That
I can't believe how you're trying to apologize for these people.
I'm not apologizing. I'm saying that both are wrong, but one is more pressing because it's an entire state. I'm saying this is the reason that probably this did get as much traction is because the whole transgender toilet issue has become such a hot button issue. I do not see that is obfuscating this issue, which is just as important.
It's an organization, and you weren't dealing with a whole damn state when you were dealing with those Christians who are running that bakery. You were dealing with individuals who are running a local business. Right. So that was wrong as well. It wasn't a whole state issue, all right? If you're going to call that discrimination and, attack those people and demonize those people to death, then you got to do the same thing for the Islamic Community Center, point blank.
Right, but this is not a Christian... The shooting in Orlando should not be a Christian issue or an Islam issue. It's a... As I said before, it's a crazy person issue. Right, and I'm pointing out that the thing is that... Right, the media doesn't deal with Islam in this way because they know that when they do, again, there's a lot of hate and a lot of veracity towards the Islamic the reason liberal media, as you call it, begs off a little bit is because they get enough from right-wing media. I mean, how many times has Donald Trump denounced them? How many times does Alex Jones denounce them? How many times does whoever on the right wing denounce them?
They nowhere near
But
give.
the outside on the liberal side
They
is done with
nowhere
reason.
near.
It's not done with, oh well, this guy happens to be a Muslim, therefore it's a Muslim problem.
They
No, they
nowhere
you know what?
near.
Side have a
All
look.
right, all right. They nowhere near give people like. All right, they're still talking about, and I'm no Trump supporter whatsoever. Don't mistake me saying this, but they absolutely do not give Trump a pass whatsoever. They're still trying to get him to show his tax returns, and they haven't gotten off that train since his campaign started. All right, they absolutely do not give him a pass. So you really can't use him as an argument.
No, I'm not used to it, but I'm just seeing how people on the right wing attack Islam as a whole anyway. And the liberal media does attack Islam when it does something wrong. The thing is, it's like, for example, when they criticise female genital mutilation, or because as you say, the attitude towards gays. Now, this was a local story in Phoenix, compared to which again, you're right, should have gotten more press nationally. I agree with you there. But then the reason it didn't is because there's been such an issue with the states having fits over where somebody can and can't have a pay. So, and I think that's more pressing to these
The
organisations
liberals don't give a crap.
than a single thing in Phoenix doing
Gary,
something.
Gary, I can tell you, liberals don't give a crap how much commotion or ruckus they cause, or the implications of the people that they claim to defend. They don't care unless it's to Islam. Then it's all of a sudden different. But if it's to any other group, especially Christians, they don't care. It doesn't have anything to do with
This is
state
not an issue.
level.
This issue is not an
It
Islam
is
issue.
an issue. You wanna did you have something to say, Tim? I don't want to keep you from getting a chance to speak.
Nah, not now.
Oh, okay, but yeah, dude. I think
AJF is in the code. In the chat. Do you think he wants something to say? He's not spoken yet.
hmm, are you listening, bro? Hmm. Yeah, I don't know if he's listening or not, but all right. I think you really trying so hard to like justify people protecting these people. That's what these liberals are doing. They're protecting these folks that absolutely for the most part hate gays. I'm not saying that you can mix in Muslims and Islam. What I'm saying is, while Muslims may not necessarily be the haters or hated or whatever, you cannot argue against Islam itself. And Islam is way too often given a pass and protected. And why? I have no idea why, but for some reason, Islam is a especially protected class by liberals.
Christianity gets the same pass that Islam gets.
No, it
But
does not,
yes,
sir.
it does. Yes, it does.
No, it
And it's
don't.
not a
It does
Christian.
not. No, it
It's not a
doesn't.
Christian Islam issue. It's a bigotry against gays issue.
It does not. It does not, sir.
It does.
Every
Right.
time you
Liberal
heard,
media does not
every
say, does not say,
time,
all right. Put me
every
to
time
liberal
you
media
heard,
where they said that George Tiller was a Christianity issue. It wasn't. It was an
oh yes, it
anti-abortion
was.
issue.
Oh yes, it was. You gotta if you go back and like revisit the story again, they couldn't stop talking about the killer being Christian. That's all you heard. And again, and I don't mind that they did that, because a Christian extremist is a Christian extremist, period. It should be equally applied across the board, but it's not. Islam is way too protected, and people in all sorts of belief systems are recognizing this. This is not me just as a Christian theist or whatever believing this. Even atheists are starting to see this. You got people like Sam Harris who are recognize this. I don't know why you don't seem to recognize
Sam
this.
Harris is an Islamophobe.
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm dead serious.
Well, I think there it is. I think, we're pretty much done here.
No. I'm not saying that any criticism of Islam isn't legitimate. I'm saying that Sam Harris is an Islamophobe, the individual.
All right, and I don't agree with a lot of what Sam Harris says, but even I wouldn't go that far. But
no, he is. He believes in racially profiling people for being Muslim. He believes that people who are Muslim should be treated with disrespect. And the fact is, he lies. Oh, sorry. He should say he doesn't research his facts on Muslim too much. Like for example, he believed the lie article told in the Sun that was it 10% of UK Muslims want to go and fight for IS. Which, if you actually read the thing you cited, actually no, what they want to do is go and fight IS with the Muslim forces that are opposing them. But you see, he would rather believe the mistake, the lie that the Sun told, than actually research it and actually find out. And I advise to do that with just 2 clicks of a Google search. And find out that what actually they did say. You see, this is the problem. This is why I get cross. This speaks to an Islamic form of when you go to the most negative and you don't research your facts properly. Now he says he's supposed to be this rational atheist who's all about facts, but he isn't. When it comes to Islam, facts go out the window, and that's the reason he's Islamophobic. That's the same rhetoric that bigots use.
that's very, very interesting that that you would make that charge, because that, and I'm not, and don't take this the wrong way. Don't mean to insult you in any way when I say this, but it's a typical liberal buzzword to throw out when you critically examine, somebody. They must be an Islamophobe. They must be profiling them. They must be haters or something like that.
Yeah.
That's just
Okay.
all right.
The legitimate criticisms that can be made of Islam. Okay, if you want to look at legitimate ones, I can point you to the UK Council of Ex-Muslims. I can quote you to many groups that are anti-Muslim, but do it rationally. Okay.
I'm a Christian, okay, and there's a lot of things that Tim and I don't agree on, but I'm pretty sure he would agree on me that you way off based on this. And calling Sam Harris an Islamophobe is a very, very serious charge to make. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, it sounds like Gary, you're just making excuses every time.
No, I'm not making excuses. Sam Harris is an Islamophobe, and I just named you a legitimate organisation that criticises Islam. The UK Council of Ex-Muslims, and there's loads of others that do legitimate criticisms, and they don't sift into hate because they know that hate doesn't work. Okay, again, I'm not making excuses for anybody. Okay, that's the problem.
There's reasons why he's against what Muslims do, because Muslims
well, he shouldn't have to lie about it, then, should he?
Huh?
He shouldn't have to. He shouldn't have to lie. Or he shouldn't mistakenly have to rely on lie articles, then, should he? Which is what he does constantly, and it's not just once; it's numerous times he does this.
There's things that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm just saying that he is Islamic irrational about it. He doesn't check his facts. He doesn't look up what he's researching. He just goes for the most negative word and then broadcasts it. He doesn't double check himself. Now, the thing is that the Sun article is just the tip of the iceberg. I could go into numerous ways that he talks about he disproportionately represents how many Muslim terrorist attacks there are. I could talk about the fact that he disproportionately attacks how many Muslims support said terror attacks. I could talk about the way he supports how many Muslim countries support the terrorist attacks. I could go on and on and on.
Yeah, but these are all
About how many
terrorist
facts
attacks.
he gets wrong.
These are
Again,
all
the
terrorist
thing
attacks,
is he
though.
doesn't double check his facts. Now, again, Tim, are you an atheist?
Agnostic.
Okay, so then you should be about rationality and skepticism, correct? It should all be about what the facts tell us, and the fact is, the facts tell us something different than what Sam Harris is saying. And that's all I'm saying is that if he was correct, he should not have to distort the truth. The truth is the truth, no matter what you want to say about it. And the thing is that he distorts it to paint a picture of Muslims that doesn't comport with reality.
Oh, someone wants in on the outside chat. If you give it
Until you are supposed to in for some reason.
Okay, I'm posting the link again. All right, let's see here.
But yeah, Sam Harris, he has reasons why he thinks like Islam and Muslims are like bad.
Yeah,
we could look at the reasons why.
Yeah, and I saw his debate with Ben Affleck where he said about 4 or 5 untrue things. See, the thing is that the thing with Sam Harris is that he probably doesn't know any Muslims personally. I do. You see, and this is the problem I get is that the thing is that I've been friends with Muslims all my life. Never had a problem with them. They're kind, they're gentle, they're peaceful, and yet I get all this bullshit. Sorry, it just pisses me off.
Yeah, those are good Muslims though, but there's really bad ones.
But most Muslims are good Muslims. You don't seem to see that, because if you're really concerned about your life being in threat, you should be against baths or lightning strikes, because they cause you more death than Islamic terrorist attacks do. You're statistically more likely to die in the bath than you are against in a Muslim Islamic terrorist attack. But yeah, I don't see you saying that all baths are bad. I don't see people making arguments about how we should get rid of all baths. And this is the problem. Is that Muslims decry violence and put their lives on the line against violence. And this is what annoys me.
He's not saying that all Muslims are bad. He's saying the Muslims that do the bad things are bad.
That's right.
You see that?
Yeah, but he says that Islam condones that, and it doesn't.
Well, most do.
Oh, how you doing, John? You there, John?
Yeah.
How was you able to get in? I tried to post it in the chat. Was it?
Yeah, I got it on the chat.
Okay, cool. Do you have anything you want to weigh in with this?
Yeah. How can we avoid? Sorry, hold on. I got 2 things going on. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah,
how do you avoid a lightning strike?
You can't really.
Okay. How do you curtail terrorism? Is there possible ways of doing it? Yes. So that's a terrible example. You can't get away from lightning strike.
No, I'm talking about statistics. I'm talking about statistics. Statistically, well, if we banned all baths, that would destroy all baths. There's a way of controlling that. You could take less. You could wear rubber soles. That makes you less conductible. So I mean, like we should make it legal to wear that you have to wear rubber soles in case you get lightning struck. And this is the problem. It's throwing the baby out with the bathwater. What we actually need is ways that support the Muslims in Syria who are fighting IS. That's what we should be doing.
Sam Harris doesn't think that we should be fighting ISIS?
No, and I've said that. I said that he thinks that moderate Muslims support ISIS when they don't.
He says that moderates provide a shield for radicals.
Yeah, they don't.
Okay. So you think that profiling in any way at an airport is racist or xenophobic?
Yes.
That's insanity.
No, it
That's
is not.
throwing statistics out the window.
No, it
Exactly,
is
it
not.
really is.
Because it's no different than the LA cops in the late 90s racially profiling black people because they were statistically more likely to do crimes.
All right,
Why wouldn't you do that?
all right.
Because it's racist. That's why.
Okay.
Because
Let me
every
ask you
black
this.
person who's
let
in a
me
car is
let
going
me
to
ask
do
you
a
this.
crime.
Okay, if there's a girl and the cops find her, she's all bloody and she has clothes ripped off, and she says, the person who did this to me is in the area, and that's all the information they got. Would they look for a male or a female?
They would probably look, it depended on the sexual assault, probably a male.
No, just her clothes are ripped off, and she's bloody.
But you do know they do rape kits, right?
No, I'm saying she's laying there, and she says the person who did this to me is in the area, and then she passes out. Who are you going to look for, a male or a female?
It depends on what the swab comes back with the rape kit.
I'm saying, like, the perpetrator just got done fleeing from the scene, so they're going to go searching for a certain type of person. Are they going to look for a man or a female?
They're going to look for anybody suspicious walking around. That's what they're going to do.
They're going to look for a man, because statistically, men do this.
It's
They're
obvious.
justified in profiling.
It's obviously obvious, Gary. How come you like dodging the question?
I'm
Like,
not dodging the question. I'm actually answering it, which is that they wouldn't. Cops do not assume anything, because again they're all about collecting evidence, and they can perform rape kits at the scene of crime, which are more or less instantaneous.
All right, let me tell you a quick personal story. Years ago, it was New Year's Eve, and it was me, my best friend who was black, and my other best friend who was white. All right, and I mentioned they racist for a very good reason, and you'll find out soon. There was a shooting that happened about 2 blocks away, and we were walking home from IHOP. We had just got home from we went to IHOP to eat. We had blast, and we started walking home from IHOP, and then we walking right, and we getting ready to go home and get in for the night. We drop our white boy off, our white friend off, and we keep on walking, and it's just the two of us. Next thing you know, like literally like seconds after we dropped our white friend off, the cops came and stopped us and said, they were like, "How you boys doing?" and whatnot. And then they said, "Could you please get on the ground?" We didn't know what the heck was going on. All right, and we got on the ground. We did what they told us to do, and they cuffed me and my friend. They cuffed us, and then they put us in side separate cop cars, and then they asked us questions, talking about a shooting which happened about 2 blocks away, and we both told the exact same story, despite the fact we were in separate cars. We told that we had dropped our friend off, who was white, and we went to his house, and then the cops spoke to him, and he told the same story as well. And earlier that night, while I was at IHOP, I called my father, letting him know that I was going to be home a little late. He was like, "Okay," and just don't get yourself killed or anything. And then he was like, "Cool." So the cop took me back to my house. Actually, before then, we went to where the shooting happened. Like, these people had their windows shot out, and then they tried to identify us as if we were the people who did it. And, they said that we were the people who did it. But the problem with their story, it wasn't the problem with their story, but the problem with, pointing to us is that there were other, relevant, evidences that came up, in which completely ruled us out of the equation, and we were 2 blocks away when it happened, so we couldn't have been involved in it in any sort of way. And I told my dad about the whole event. The cop dropped us all back at the house and uncuffed me, and the cop talked it over with my dad, and they had a good conversation. And then my father was telling me, I was like, like 14 years old, 14, 15 years old at the time, and he was telling me that, well, you happen to fit, a certain, type of profile, a certain type of look. They weren't discriminating against you or anything, but if they would have allowed Ja to just pass, then that would have been irresponsible of them, because what if it was the people who actually shot the window and they didn't stop them? Then if they didn't stop them, then that could have been, some criminals who could have gotten away. So it wasn't the fact that, they just, irrationally or, messed or wrongfully profiled us. We happened to fit a certain profile, and they had to take precautions. They did their job correctly, and I understood that. All right. I didn't, when my dad explained it to me that way, it made a whole lot of sense. They weren't, irrationally profiling us or just trying to look to arrest some black folks. They just had to take the necessary precautions. And that's similar to what goes on in these places, to where if a person fits a certain type of profile, they have to stop them and they have to question them and, take the necessary steps. I mean, you can call it unjust discrimination all you wish, but, there's very, very important steps and relevant things that have to happen in order to protect people. It's, you err on the side of caution. That's all it's about. It's not about profiling irrationally or discrimination.
Right, but this is the problem. Is that A, discrimination is stupid anyway, and B, this sort of discrimination is even more stupid. And let me point you out why. How can you tell somebody's religion by what they look like? You can't. Because again,
statistically, yes, you can.
No, you can't.
How can you not? How?
Well, for a start, most Muslims aren't Middle Eastern for a start.
If you see someone wearing African
most Muslims are actually are Asian, or like from places like Malaysia, Indonesia, places like that. So, like, you're basically profiling the wrong people for a start. So,
if someone's black and they have a dashiki, like, what would you like see them as?
If someone was black and had a daishiki, what would I see them as? A human being. That's what I'd say. Because I don't racially profile people.
But the key is,
oh my god,
the key is if the
because unlike a lot of people, I'm not a fucking racist.
All right, we're not accusing you of being a racist or anything.
No, I'm saying that people who racially profile are racist.
Using statistics and fact is not racist.
Okay, all right.
Racial profile is racist.
All right, okay. The key is
it is racist when you racially profile Middle Eastern people, when statistically they're not the majority race who make up the religion you're trying to profile in the first place.
But the key is you err on the side of caution, and also the key is if the government agencies and the law enforcement agencies are doing their jobs the right way, then the person in which was profiled would have absolutely nothing to be concerned about. After vetting everything and everything checks out correctly and they're doing their jobs correctly, then that person will be free to go, which happens in a whole lot of cases. They err on the side of caution. It's not. It's better to err on the side of caution and have somebody cuffed and they don't be responsible, than to not do anything because you don't want to seem like a racist and then somebody gets killed.
Agreed.
Okay, and one last thing, I'm going to get out of here. Sam Harris he says that he's a perfect person to be profiled. He's clean shaven, he's white, although he is a man. And all of those things, being clean shaven's a big one, and just being a man in general, just those two right off the bat are gonna raise some flags. Sam Harris, he said that there should be profiling, but he fits the profile. He's saying when a little white granny comes going through, or a little black granny comes going through, we shouldn't worry about them. There's a finite amount of resources at airports and other densely populated places that you have a finite amount of time and resources to look at these people. And using statistics is the best way to go. Just to randomly pull people off to the side is just being ignorant.
Did you want to respond to that, Gary?
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing is that we have a lot of security things anyway. Like, we've got body scans, we've got all sorts. And the thing is that you have to go through a lot of passport security. And the thing is that, and plus there's other checks you have to go through as well. So, like, the thing is that, like, I don't think it has to be a profile, a racial thing. It could just be behavior. Why don't we make it a behavioral thing? Then we take race out of it and we just make it, if someone acting suspiciously at the acting out of what we would consider the norm, you know, for flying, you know, it's somebody like, you know, maybe checking themselves a bit too much, and, like, you know, make it more rationally done that way, rather than just making it, oh, well, it should because they fit profile X. Again, the thing is that because all that's going to do is just make people who don't fit profile X, terrorists make somebody who fits that profile just send them through, because if they know that somebody's going to get profiled, they're just not going to send that person. Again, terrorists aren't stupid, and this is the thing that we need to roll dice. If there was racial profile, they would stop meeting that profile and they get somebody who doesn't.
It'll be a waste of time, and like, isn't it better for like something statistically to be like looked at better than just check everybody?
I'm not saying, but we check everybody anyway. I'm not saying that we should check everybody a second time anyway, because that's not time. That's not time. That's only using the time you have. Well, I'm saying that if you should look at behaviour more than anything else.
I mean, I think Sam Harris has ad nauseum answered all these unfounded charges, and I think it's just so funny that you just throw out the word Islamophobia out of nowhere, and he's handled this charge for like 4 years now.
Yeah,
and there's still people throwing this crap out. He himself says he fits the profile. He's not ruling people out. He's just saying, let's be sensible. And why limit yourself just to behavior? A lot of people pass the behavior test. There's multiple levels, and why give up? Why give up where they come from? Why give up how they look? Why give up any of these things? We need all resources to try to curtail any type of terrorism or anything like that.
Yeah, I agree, John, and you know there's a whole lot of stuff you and I absolutely do not agree on, but you are dead on this point, and you know, whether you're Christian, atheist, or whatever, calling somebody out to be an Islamophobe, man, you know, that's a serious charge to make, and you got to back that up with some serious evidence.
Okay,
there's
no as I pointed out,
that I can tell.
He tells mistruths. Let's put it in that generous tone of voice.
Name one.
Okay, the statistic I brought before about the 20% of British Muslims supporting IS when they don't.
Support IS?
The Islamic State.
Oh, ISIS?
No, it's IS. It's Islamic State. ISIS is not their name. It's IS. It's Islamic State.
Wait, hold on. All right, are we speaking about the same thing, and you're just arguing about the name, or you're saying it's two separate things?
We'll call it ISIS if that makes you happy. Okay.
Oh, I see. Oh, you're like PCing the word. I see. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So all right, ISIS. So he said that 20% of British Muslims will go over and fight for ISIS. Okay, but they don't. Well, if you actually read the study he was actually citing, which was published in The Sun, what it actually is that they wanted to go over and fight against ISIS in Syria because they thought that the British and US governments weren't doing enough to support the people over there. Which, if you actually read the thing he was citing, it becomes very clear very quickly. This is the thing, is that he'd rather believe the shit rag like The Sun they believe what the actual study. So he doesn't actually go to the actual study and reads what it actually says. And then we've got the other ones where he says that Muslims support like death to homosexuals when they don't.
Yeah, there's a lot of pollings from a whole bunch of different countries in the Middle East.
He takes the least generous one, is what I'm saying. Is that he goes to the least generous one and says that is representative of Muslims' attitudes when it isn't. If you actually do any sort of study, then you know that their attitudes are actually more liberal than we've been led to believe. The thing is, I'm not saying that they're super liberal. I'm saying that they're more liberal than people give them credit. At most, they're agnostic to homosexuality, and at most, they think IS are a bunch of barbarous idiots. If you ask them personally, and I agree with them.
I can't think of which country specifically. He just did a podcast about it, but basically they did some survey over. This is not going to be very informative. I can't remember which countries or which parts of the countries, but basically what it came down to, there was 0% agreed with homosexual marriage. It's like 0%. It's like 4 different countries over there. But again, it's not very informative. But yeah.
Right, but again, that doesn't mean they're against gays existing. It just means they're against gay marriage. Again, everything is minute steps. Because again, acceptance. Again, how did gay marriage take to get here in the West? I mean, years. I think that's the way it's going to work there. It's going to be incremental. I mean, maybe it's not as it's happened there, but again, the thing is, it'll happen incrementally because, like, as gays get more accepted as part of society and just the norm, it'll get accepted just like it did over here, and that's what we have to start pushing, and that's what liberal Muslims are pushing.
Right. If you compare, if you're trying to compare how we used to treat gay people, with how they do, I mean, I don't think there's a parallel there. They toss them off roofs. Then even women, they stone women. Rape is really high. Women can't get driver's licenses in a lot of these countries. I mean, I don't really see the parallel. I mean, we were restricted.
Defend that some of the Muslim government's attitude towards women, I'm not going to do that. Like the Saudi Arabian attitude towards women is disgusting. The Syrian attitude towards women is disgusting. And again, I'm not saying that's not a Muslim problem. That's the government that's in charge there, but I don't think that's representative of the people. You have to understand that most of these places they're dictatorships. Iran it is more or less. It says it's a democracy, but
well, a part of these places being dictatorships is whenever you go to do polling and things like this, a lot of times the government won't even let them do it. So Sam Harris is going off the little polls that they have. I mean, what evidence do you have to say that it's just the opposite?
Well, because like we've taken like statistical polls of these places and said that their attitudes are much more of the actual people. When they don't have a gun to their heads and say that, yeah, they're much more liberal than we believe because they're not committing acts of violence and they don't believe that homosexuals should be stoned into because they think that people their faith is theirs and they shouldn't force it on people. And as I said, I'd put you to where places like for example, like Afghanistan and places like that, places that are Muslim but are more liberal. I can't remember what country was it. Because Michael Moore went to one for his last film. I can't remember what Muslim country it was. Where the guy said that he's a Muslim, but he believes that people should be able to be gay and get married if they want, because it's the government should represent the people and not the faith, not a faith. And I thought that was a very interesting thought for a Muslim. Because my faith is my own, and I should push it on people.
Right. Well, I gotta cook some macaroni and cheese. I thought I would pop in. I don't know. I think you should just be more careful with throwing around Islamophobia because that's a pretty big charge. So, all right.
Well, just thank you for coming in, John, and everyone else too. I gotta end the hangout anyway because I got some errands I gotta run. But I appreciate you coming in here, Gary and Tim and AJF. Thanks for the good conversation.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you all next time. Have a good one.